Well, hello, free people of the Rocky Mountain region, and welcome to our legislative live stream tonight. We will be starting at 7:30. Please share, subscribe, like, comment. This is going to be an extra spicy show tonight. We're going to have a lot of fun. Really looking forward to it. We have one of Colorado's Liberty leaders joining us, candidate for governor as well, and it's going to be a lot of good time. So, thanks for joining in. We'll get started here at 7:30, about 10 minutes from now. Thank you. Everybody, we will be starting here at 7:30 tonight. Thanks for joining. It's going to be a lot of fun. We have a lot to talk about. We have a great guest joining us, so really looking forward to this one. We're going to finish out the legislative session. 2 weeks left, folks. 2 weeks left. A lot to go, a lot to talk about, a lot to explore here. So really, really looking forward to this one. We'll be starting soon. Well, hello, free people of the Rocky Mountain region. This is Brandon from Free State, Colorado. We have Michael Vance, Legislative Director of the Libertarian Party of Colorado. Michael, how are you, sir?
I'm doing good, Brandon. How about yourself?
Hey, doing pretty well, pretty well. Looking forward to this one. We got a lot to talk about tonight. It's going to be a lot of fun. A lot of controversy in these last 2 weeks of the legislative session. A lot of bad votes from some good Republicans, so really upset about that. But we have one of our best state senators joining us tonight, and then is Senator Mark Baisley. We'll talk a little bit about Senate Bill 86, the most controversial bill this week, and then some other controversies as well. But how have you been, Michael? Did you have a good week?
Had a good week. Had a real good week. Uh, got more and more excited, but also dreaded the last few days of session because we all know how horrible they can be. How horrible legislative session can be. But at the same time, we know it's almost over, and we can see that light at the end of the tunnel.
Yeah, there's some positives there knowing the legislative session. The damage is almost done for 2025, but unfortunately, uh, got a lot to talk about. A lot more bad legislation going through the Capitol. It's crazy to see where we're at. So we'll definitely take a look and see what we got here. So yeah, 158 bills signed into law already, folks. 724 bills have been introduced. So absolutely gnarly crazy. Uh, just absolutely wild. We'll see how many more bills they can shove through this last little bit of the session here. So awesome, Michael. Should we go ahead and get started here? Jump in?
Absolutely. I'm excited. I'm really excited for our guest as well. So let's go ahead and hop in.
Perfect. Awesome. Let's take a look here. So we want to always start off with the most urgent bills of the week, folks. So if this is the only part you see, take a screenshot, get this information out there, post it on social media. But these are three of the biggest bills going through the state legislature this week. Senate Bill 86, which we will talk about here, that is one of the bills that Governor Jared Polis vetoed. He actually vetoed a bill. He actually did the right thing, believe it or not. Jared Polis did the right thing by vetoing Senate Bill 86, and we will see how the state reps vote on it. But we'll talk into that in a second. Please call and email your state representatives. Email all of them. Call all of them and tell them to vote no. To vote no on the veto override. Senate Bill 86 should die. It is a bad bill. The governor actually got one right at this time. Any thoughts on that, Michael, before we dig in a little further?
It's honestly kind of shocking when it shouldn't be at this point to see some of the bipartisan work going on behind the scenes. You're hearing a lot of people that we've really liked in the past working to support this bill, and I'm extremely concerned that these people could get their way, but at the same time, we've got hope, and as long as we fight, we can win. But that only happens uh, if people like you guys get engaged. Call your rep, call your house rep, email them, let them know what you stand, how you stand. Call them. immediately, you can go ahead and email them right now while you're listening to us. Let them know, speak your voice, speak your mind. Just give them a piece of your mind and let them know how important your civil liberties are to you. I mean, we're going to talk more about all the infringements this is, from due process to your First Amendment, Second Amendment, Fourth Amendment rights. This is your parental rights. All of this is trampled under one bill in Senate Bill 86, and um, I'm really concerned about what some of these individuals believe down at the Gold Dome. So the good news is we've seen some very key not senators, but we've seen some key House representatives come out, like Brandy Bradley, Rep Ryan Gonzalez, Ken DeGraff, Assistant Minority Leader Ty Winter. They've all come out publicly against this bill. We've even, for example, Ty Winter voted on the third vote during the third reading for Senate Bill 86. He came out and listened to the people. So that's a huge white pill. If we can get more people to listen to our voice, we can absolutely win and kill the veto override in the House.
Definitely. And I see Sean Sinclair in the chat asking, Second Amendment right matter. And yeah, there is a Second Amendment. It's a gun rights bill. It is a bad gun bill. Senate Bill 86 will be used to enforce Senate Bill 3, the worst ban in Colorado history, online. So the state government, the attorney general, God forbid that ends up being Jenna Griswold because she's running for that position next year. If she has this power to tell social media companies who they have to ban, or else they're going to face fines, they're going to face attacks from our state government as deceptive trade practices, then yeah, it's bad news, folks. Social media censorship, 100%, Mike, but also dealing with guns. They say if you're trying to sell guns or talk about selling guns online, and think about it, Colorado just outlawed some of the most popular guns there is. If you post about that, you could lose your internet access or your social media access permanently. Absolutely insane. And I should have put on here too Senate Bill 77. Senate Bill 77 is pushed back to the end of this week, but that is going to be heard on Friday, May 2nd, in the Senate for a veto override vote as well. So should have brought that one up. We'll be definitely talking about that one a lot on X and Facebook and everywhere over the next few days. So please keep an eye on that one, folks. But yeah, here we go. Senate Bill 276, another bad bill. This is the Protect Civil Rights Immigration Status. This is the bill that's going to turn Colorado into even more of a sanctuary state. We'll talk a little bit more about it later, but this is being heard Monday, April 28th in the House Judiciary Committee upon adjournment in the Old State Library. And then House Bill 1312 on Wednesday. This is going to be a big one, folks. This is the bill where if you misgender or your kid, excuse me, or don't want to go along with the dangerous gender transition that they might be talking about, then you could lose custody. You could lose custody in a court case, in a custody case with with a spouse, an ex-wife, whatever it is. So House Bill 1312 has garnered national attention, and it's actually going to be heard this Wednesday, April 30th, in the Senate Judiciary Committee. So, folks, these are three urgent matters: Senate Bill 86, Senate Bills 276, and House Bill 1312. Tell everybody you know to vote no on these. Bad stuff. And yes, VL, dead naming as well. So, any other thoughts on these, Michael? We're going to get more into them later, but just wanted to bring these up here.
I would just the last thing I want to say about this is, if you guys haven't seen it already, go stay on this channel once this live stream's over and check out Brandon's interview with Dustin Gonzalez. Great interview from a Jeffco dad who's losing custody of his own child because he refuses to call his daughter um, his son when his daughter was born his daughter, and the school is actively working with his ex-wife to trans his kid. It's absolutely unacceptable what's going on, and what lives in the district that lives of TikTok named the worst school district in the entire country. So please watch it. If anybody cares about parental rights, you should definitely go check it out, because what's going on to this man is absolutely horrific.
Absolutely horrific, and it's happening in your school, whether you know it or not. So, thanks. Appreciate the shout out there, Michael. This crazy story, 1312 would make it even worse. So, let's talk a little bit about Senate Bill 86, though, because this is the most controversial bill going out there. I don't know about you, but people have been sending text messages. There's this lobby group, this education lobby group called Ready Colorado, that's spending tens of thousands of dollars, sending text messages to people across Colorado because this veto override vote might fail. The governor was right. They got this through the Senate, and the House is going to be voting on it as soon as Monday. And the House members, like Michael was saying earlier, are flipping. They're hearing from their constituents. They're hearing about how bad of a bill this is, and they're changing their votes and are hopefully not going to vote to override the veto. So if you don't know the process in Colorado, once the governor vetoes a bill, the bill goes back to the General Assembly and it has to pass with two-thirds of the vote, so a supermajority. Now, I would say thankfully, but Republicans are not in the superminority anymore in the Senate and the House, so they could actually stop this. They could actually stop this bill from becoming law and do the right thing here. But unfortunately, in the Senate, they totally rolled over. Here in the House, we'll find out what they do there. But House Republicans actually have an opportunity to stop the Democrats pushing this dangerous policy. So really hope it happens. Really wish it would do it. So just point out a few things here why Senate Bill 86 is so bad. This is from our good friends over at Rocky Mountain Gun Owners. They said Senate Bill 86 is textbook authoritarian censorship. This is language straight from Senate Bill 86, the bill that Polis vetoed that Republicans in the Colorado House of Representatives are attempting to overturn. C, this is part of that bill. If the social media company determines that the user violated the social media platform's published policies or state law, they'll be forced to terminate the user's account on the social media platform within 24 hours after the determination is made and use all available methods and technology to prevent the user from operating, registering, establishing, or opening an account or profile on the social media platform. So, folks, you'd be permanently banned from social media if Senate Bill 86 becomes law and they catch you talking about buying a gun that the Colorado government just banned. Or, we know how ridiculous the Colorado government is. Maybe it can end up being something related to gender or misgendering somebody. Who knows where this can go, folks? But it's a dangerous precedent. The government should not be controlling who can and cannot have internet access, who can and cannot use these social media platforms. And of course, it's under the guise of protecting children, but definitely bad news. What do you think about this, Michael?
Oh, I think I'm really appreciative of Rocky Mountain Gun Owners highlighting this portion. I mean, I don't think people really highlighted the impact this is going to have on the Second Amendment and the 2A community. Uh, when you think about what's going on, how much the Democrats want to silence people, they use critical theory to silence anyone who dares to fight them. This is precisely how they do it in the government. This is another form of cultural Marxism taking shape through Senate Bill 86.
Yeah, definitely here. Definitely. Here's another post from Rally for Our Rights. Good friends there, Leslie Hollywood. She has an incredible article. You gotta read it if you haven't seen it yet. I'll post it in the chat here on YouTube. But Senate Bill 86, Colorado's plan to censor gun owners and blacklist them on social media. Rally for Our Rights. Talk about guns on social platforms from Colorado? Get censored. Talk about how to lawfully build a gun or promote a new product in your gun store? Get banned and possibly get turned over to the police. Yeah, it's bad news, folks. This bill, Senate Bill 86, would require social media companies to report people to the police, to law enforcement, basically turning them into agents of the state, where they're going to be looking at your social media posts. And then people could report you. You can have some left-wing activists get on there, report your post. It gets investigated. They turn it over to the police, and all of a sudden now you're getting your rights violated. So bad news. Any thoughts on this one?
This reminds me of this portion of the bill reminds me of Europe. I don't know how much you guys are paying attention to what's going on in Europe, but frequently seeing people in Europe, particularly the UK, Scotland, getting arrested, getting jail time for posting something on social media. It's your free speech. You absolutely have the right to post, say what you want to say, and social media is the new style of town square. So there's absolutely zero reason for somebody getting arrested and getting jail time for something that they say. If somebody wants to make the case that a social media platform wants to uh, silence somebody or restrict the speech that they have, I don't agree with that whatsoever. I personally hate that idea. I don't want to associate with a social media company that would believe in something like that. But it becomes a complete First Amendment violation when you have the state enforcing that policy against you. This is the road to KGB style social media. This is the road to European social media control. And I'm greatly concerned about the future of Colorado as well as the United States of America if we are able to see something like this pass, because um, how many more years will it be before they take it to the next step and we start jailing Coloradans for talking about gun rights and their own guns on Facebook?
100%, 100%. Here's a Free State, Colorado. What I said here, I said, if you violate state law on social media, you will be banned for life. And I said, now I understand. Now I understand that most people are okay with kicking criminals off the internet. And there's bad people out there. Obviously, there's bad people taking advantage of children. Those people need to be locked up and maybe even worse done to them. But think of how many ridiculous laws our legislature has passed. Misgender someone online, refuse to bake a cake, talk about how to buy a gun that's banned by Senate Bill 03. Social media would be forced to ban you, or else the Attorney General, which God forbid might be Jenna Griswold, would come after them. I mean, it is too much power. It is the wrong approach. You know, these people are doing bad things. And yeah, it's something we can't allow to happen. And it's so interesting to see how the idea of protecting kids and making sure kids are doing the right, are being protected by these evil predators online can justify this total, total gross encroachment on our rights and total setup where the attorney general, the state government's going to be telling social media platforms who and who not to ban. And sure, the bill as it is right now goes after the worst of the worst, but it doesn't take much, folks. It doesn't take much for them to expand that and turn it into other people. So it's a bad precedent, really bad news there. And I really like this post, Michael, from Libertarian Party of Colorado here. Call your reps now. Any House member who votes for the Colorado KGB through the Senate Bill 86 veto override will be challenged by a libertarian. This is completely unacceptable in a free society. Tell us about that one, Michael.
Absolutely. So, for the 2024 election cycle, we created something with the Colorado GOP called the Liberty Pledge. And we saw a lot of success. Rep. Kelty signed the pledge. Rep. Kelty voted no in the final reading of Senate Bill 86, and we are grateful for her vote. She kept a line with her principles as well as libertarian principles. The Liberty Pledge in itself was intended to be a series of principles that we believe Republicans as well as libertarians could align with, so that way we could come together. And if a individual candidate agreed, we the and the a libertarian candidate agreed, as well as our delegation of delegates at our annual convention agreed, because here's one other thing that you guys should know. The Libertarian Party does not have a primary. It has we nominate our nominees for each district via the assembly process. So that takes place last year in 2024. It took place at the end of May down in end of March in Colorado Springs. So with um, that being said, Rebecca Kelty signed the Liberty Pledge, and that satisfied our delegates at the convention, and we agreed not to put anybody up. It wasn't something the board could say. The board has no power. It's fully something that gets um, that is approved or not approved by the delegates themselves. So Rebecca Kelty, our delegates granted Rebecca Kelty a clean, non-libertarian race, and she won by 3 votes. So we're grateful for her upholding her end of the deal and not voting for Senate Bill 3. We would encourage you to thank her for that bill. Give her a call, give her office a call, and send her an email and say thank you. We're watching, and we are appreciative of your good votes down at the Capitol so far. And just send her a word of encouragement, and tell her to keep up the fight and continue to hold strong on her Senate Bill 86 as well with the veto override. Now, that being said, um, with 2026, this very well could be we believe this will be something that we can't muster. If we see somebody vote for to override the veto on who's a Republican, We don't believe that is somebody who upholds the principles of libertarianism or libertarians or even liberty Republicans. This is just because of how bad this bill is. So we will look for candidates. We will encourage Republican primary challenges as well. And if a Republican primary challenger upholds the wants to sign a pledge, we may not run a candidate in that race. So if we get a good Liberty Republican um, um, to sign a pledge in a specific district for a Republican who votes for the veto override, that very well could be a factor that we have to consider coming into the 2025 Libertarian state convention as well. So we're looking forward to seeing what happens with this vote. And we are also looking forward to seeing how many more Republicans flip and understand the power that libertarians have in their district. And because one more time, another race like Dan Woog, for example, Dan Woog, he did not sign the pledge, but he submitted a video just like Ryan Gonzalez saying that he would uphold um, the planks of the Liberty Pledge, and our candidates accepted that. If Dan Woog chooses to vote for the veto override, that very well might leave a terrible taste in libertarians' mouths come 2026, and they might want to run somebody against him. And Dan Woog only won his race by 110 votes. Uh, when you have 28,000 people voting on each side of the aisle for a candidate and you win by 110 votes, that's extremely, extremely thin margins. So I would highly and highly encourage people in competitive races who are Republicans to think twice, consider the power of libertarians in your district, and be very, very mindful of how you vote come Senate Bill 86.
Definitely 100%. Most people don't realize that Senate Bill 86 is an anti-gun bill. And of course, libertarians, as well as Rocky Mountain gun owners, were no compromise on our Second Amendment rights. So we don't want to back down on any anti-gun bill, even if they say it's only going to be targeting criminals. But guess what? In the eyes of our governor, in the eyes of the Democratic state legislators, we're all criminals if we're gun owners, right? I mean, that's kind of what they're pushing. So there you go, folks. Check that out. We're going to be talking about a lot. Here's a Colorado Liberty Scorecard, which does a phenomenal job of rating bills every year. And they say that they oppose this bill because, quote, the bill seeks to protect minors and enhance transparency, but it imposes substantial regulatory burdens on social media companies, restricts free market principles, and raises concerns about user rights and platform autonomy. Here's from the Computer and Communications Industry Association. So I just want to read briefly what they said. They said requirements under Senate Bill 86 are not administrable or well defined, creating serious compliance questions for both businesses and users. The bill's definitions section begins with the phrase, quote, unless the context otherwise requires, end quote, followed by definitions of the key terms. If the bill's definitions can be altered based on a concept as vague as context, a covered social media platform cannot know in advance whether it is complying with the law or not. Such a provision is too vague to meet the due process clause's requirements. And of course, who's going to be providing that context? Who's going to be telling the social media companies if they're meeting their obligations under Senate Bill 86 or not? Well, it's going to be the Attorney General, which right now is Phil Weiser, who is a total authoritarian, or God forbid, it's Jenna Griswold, who's possibly even worse. Do we really want her to have that power? Back to the article. Furthermore, this bill contains extensive compliance requirements that will worsen user experience, compromise user privacy, and inhibit businesses' ability to improve their products and services. The bill's extensive mandates include requirements that users reconfirm their age every 30 minutes and extremely burdensome annual reports that go far beyond conventional transparency reports. The bill requires reporting on extraordinary granular user information that services may not possess or retain, including users' gender, arbitrary age classification like 22 to 30 or 31 to 44 years old, various slim percentiles, including, quote, 99 and 9/10, end quote, and data at narrow bands like 1 hour increments and 30-minute increments. By forcing businesses to collect and retain information they would not otherwise keep, this provision further jeopardizes user privacy for all users, but especially minors. The bill requires websites to not just take down, but keep down accounts. effectively requiring businesses to monitor their consumers more intrusively. Sites are also required to keep a staffed hotline on search warrants for continuous availability, including 24-hour turnaround time. If enacted, Senate Bill 86 may result in denying services to all users under 18, curtailing their First Amendment rights and ability to access information and support. So, folks, bad bill, horrible. I hope people realize why the liberty community is going so hard on this and why we're trying to hold these Republicans accountable because we have a higher standard, right? We have a higher standard for the Republicans in our state government. We want them to be more liberty minded, of course. We wish the Democrats were as well, but we all know the reality there is that the Democrats are very far from being liberty minded for the most part. And so, we really are pushing the Republicans, especially because the Republicans have the numbers to actually decide if this veto override vote is going to go through or not. So that's kind of the point there. Any other thoughts on this, Michael, before I mean, we could talk about Senate Bill 86 before our guest joins us here in a few minutes.
One last thing I do want to point out. Earlier, I mentioned this is First, Second, and Fourth Amendment. This is a broad approach. It attacks absolutely everybody. This is going to take people's metadata as well, including metadata of innocent users. This is also going to take the metadata for individuals who did not actually commit a crime in the eyes of Colorado as well. So there are Fourth Amendment concerns about this thing as well. So be very careful. I want to tell you guys, I want to tell you guys to reach out and see if you guys have the opportunity and you guys know anybody in the media, reach out to people in the media. Let them know what type of attack this is on our First Amendment rights, our Second Amendment rights, as well as parental rights. I mean, they are claiming that this is going to protect kids when I believe Brandy Bradley said it best. If you are having an issue with your kid getting into problems on social media, then you need to become a parent and take away their social media tools. This is has this is a nanny state overreach, and I would highly encourage any of you to go to the bill's website on leg.colorado.gov and read the bill itself. It even outlines why they're doing this bill. And they're basically saying social media companies didn't step in, so we're going to step in now because they think of you as a nanny, as their subjects, and they are the nannies in the nanny state. And we are free citizens of Colorado. We are not subjects as good old rep Ken DeGraff says, tax paying widgets.
We are definitely not tax-paying widgets, and we don't want any government intrusion into the internet. We want digital freedom. I think that's should be a non-controversial take for the Libertarian Party, for the liberty community in Colorado, for free people everywhere. We don't want arbitrary uh, regulations placed on social media companies and then forcing them to ban people, or they're going to face the wrath of our Attorney General. That is bad policy. So check it out, folks. Make your decisions yourself. But please, please, if you don't do anything else, go in and send an email to your state rep, to your state senator. Well, state senator's already done it, but your state rep or any representative in Colorado and tell them to vote no on the Senate Bill 86 override. Please, if we can get all 30 plus people who are watching right now to get on the legislative website, email, call your state rep, tell them to vote no. It doesn't matter if they're Republican or Democrat, ask them to vote no on the Senate Bill 86 override, which they're going to be hearing as soon as tomorrow. So, yeah, bad news, folks. Definitely check it out. Get in there, get involved. We got a lot more to talk about. We're going to have our guest join soon. So I don't want to get into the bills of the week yet, but we got some interesting bills being heard this week. We're wrapping it up. So we got, just so everybody knows, we got basically 10 days, seven, really, let's see. So the legislative session is supposed to be out on the 7th. That's where it's projected to be right now. So we got this week, and then we got about 3 days next week. Then we're done with the legislative session for 2025. Thankfully, here in Colorado, we only have a 120-day session, so it's going to be over before we know it. But we got to keep the pressure up. We got to really keep fighting. We have to use our voice. We have to be loud. We have to stand up for liberty, stand up for freedom while we can, especially in this last little rush here, folks. So definitely, please have some questions for Senator Baisley. If you didn't know, Senator Baisley is running for governor. So running for governor this year in 2026, we're going to have a very interesting race there. So really excited that he's going to be joining us here shortly. But what else, Michael, in these last 2 weeks, should people be paying attention to before we get into our guest here?
I'm glad you brought this up, Brandon, because Rep. Chris Richardson, he's a freshman rep. Uh, I think he's done a fairly decent job overall so far. There's been some questionable votes, but most reps are going to have questionable votes, and then some are just completely most reps these days are completely unacceptable. So this is a fantastic tweet from him. I want to read this to you guys. Day 110, entering the danger zone. Rule change, reducing debate and transparency. With just 10 days left in the 2025 legislative session and 250 bills, the majority is throwing transparency out the window to rush through their most controversial bills. Starting Monday, April 28th, committees must report actions immediately. Bills will race to the floor. Major third reading amendments now allowed at the last minute. Reconsideration votes, no advance notice needed, just a simple majority. 24-hour notice for Senate amendments, suspended. Amendment deadlines, gone. Surprise changes coming. Why? So they can ram dangerous bills through, like HJR 1023, suing the people of Colorado to overturn Tabor using your tax dollars. Senate Bill 276, doubling down on Colorado's sanctuary state status, risking public safety and federal funding. And if you guys didn't pay attention, we had a major DEA bust in Colorado Springs yesterday at an underground, or last night at an underground nightclub. So be paying attention. It's happening in Colorado Springs. It's happening in Adams County. It's happening in a lot of areas, especially along the Front Range. This fast track scheme reduces transparency, limits debate, and undermines public trust. The final, most dangerous stretch of the session is here. Stay vigilant.
Definitely stay vigilant, folks. Speak out, stand up. We can't let them get away with this. Of course, they're going to do everything they can. But that's great. I mean, if Representative Richardson flips, then we got uh, obviously DeGraff, Garcia Sander, all the people who voted against it are still going to vote against it. But getting a couple flips from Representative Winter, Representative Richardson, get one or two more, and there's an incredible opportunity here to kill Senate Bill 86, and that would be an amazing thing to see, folks. So, really looking forward to that. I really think that's going to be interesting thing to watch here. And yeah, appreciate Representative Richardson really sharing some of that information on this last home stretch here. And I got to say, folks, if you're on X, somebody just posted, TT, a great account to follow, just posted a breakdown here. So there's this group out there called Ready Colorado. And they've been sending, I mentioned them earlier, but they've been sending text messages trying to get people to contact their representative to support Senate Bill 86, right? They want to support Senate Bill 86, so it's a bad, but we disagree with that. We totally disagree with that. But it turns out that this Ready Colorado organization has been pouring lots of money into these legislators' campaigns over the years. So, some questions were raised about why the Senate voted the way they did. And don't get me wrong, I know a lot of them voted because their constituents said one way or the other. But nonetheless, the fact that there's campaign contributions from this group trying to basically tell them how they should vote is something that people should be paying attention to for sure. So, pretty wild stuff. Just shared it in the chat. Check that out if you can. Crazy stuff here, folks. But we should have our guest joining us here any minute now.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's pretty wild what's going on in Colorado now. I mean, I'm very grateful that there's only a few more days left in the session. Um, but yeah, we need to stay very vigilant, and we can see tactics change with between now and what Richardson also shared with us this afternoon.
Definitely, definitely. I'm resending the link to Senator Baisley there. He was having an issue there, so resending him the link, and he'll be joining us here in just a second, folks. So it's been a wild legislative session. It's crazy. I'm so glad it's only 120 days. That's huge. So we're really excited that it's going to be over. But give me one second here, sending this to him.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. It's just wild to see what they've done this session, what they've pushed through. The Democrats lost in a lot of ways. It's kind of interesting to me because the Democrats lost seats, and yet they've gotten even bolder in their convictions to just shove their ideology down our throats. I mean, look at no further than 1312, but 1312 is specifically, I think, is waking up a lot of people in terms of how psychotic the Colorado legislature is, and I think that there's a really good shot for us. I know we had a great interview last week with Leslie Hollywood, and she was very concerned about what's going to happen in the midterm elections. One thing I do want to point out to people is just as we swung a little bit further left in a lot of ways in Colorado, which was a break from the trend nationally, we could possibly see a leftward trend nationally, yet a rightward trend in Colorado, and we can possibly even back up a little bit more during these midterm elections because of how crazy everything is within the Colorado legislature right now. So, um, stay focused and work towards 2026, and now's the time to be working towards 2026. So, um, with that being said, grateful for Senator Baisley for hopping on board with us tonight.
Good evening, guys.
Good evening, Senator. Thank you so much for taking time to talk to us. If you haven't met Michael Vance, he's the legislative director of the Libertarian Party,
Oh,
and we
Great to
so
meet
Mi-
you.
pleasure's mine, Michael. Thanks for what you're doing.
Thank you.
Awesome. Well, of course, we're very excited to have you on. You're definitely one of our Liberty leaders. You're the one of the highest ranked. I think you are the highest ranked senator in our state Senate here in Colorado from Liberty Scorecard. You're a consistent voice for liberty and freedom, for free markets and property rights. And you were the only senator this last Friday to vote against the veto override on Senate Bill 86. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, you know what? I didn't realize that I was the only one until after all that happened. I'm in the front row, so I don't turn around and look behind me to see how everybody else is voting, and just vote how my principles are. I have 5 questions I ask of every bill to decide how to vote, and so I just try to move on that. Plus input from smart people I respect. But yeah, that one was interesting. That Senate Bill 86. It's one of those that it has some good intentions, but as my dad always used to tell me, the road to hell is paved with good intentions, and uh, I'm not certain if it simply has good intentions and some unintended consequences, or many times, and I suspect with this one, that there are intended consequences that are masked by some good intention looking things. So, and especially when you get bills that are over, say, 9, 10 pages long, then those bills you have to kind of take an extra look at because they usually come from outside of Colorado. They come from some national interest that has shopped the bill around the U.S. and tried to find someone in a legislature in a state who will carry it for them. And so that happens, and those folks are the sneakiest ones. They're trying to bring something in under the radar so that they can have what they want and not get caught because people brought along something. So yeah, what's wrong with this bill? I'm sure I'm telling you guys what you already well know is it pushes out law enforcement onto the social media companies and says, hey, we're going to make up some rules and we'll kind of float those along, but I need you guys to enforce them. And it starts to sound like the Biden administration with Twitter, doesn't it? And so there's unintended consequences that, frankly, I didn't even realize in affecting firearms sales. Some Second Amendment rights that would be affected, and that's not in the least bit obvious when you read the bill. So those are the things you need to be able to conjecture. Um, so yeah, when this was I voted against the bill. There was one other Republican who voted against the bill when it came through the system, and then it went over to the House and then passed out of the House. Then the governor vetoed it, and And I got to tell you, Governor Polis and I disagree on a lot of things. We actually get along very well because we've accomplished several good things together as well. Um, but so he vetoed this one, and I was like, "Oh, that's great. He's vetoed two of my bills in my 7 years in the legislature, and those were bad decisions, but this one was a good decision." And when he vetoed that, I thought, well, that's some good wisdom being exercised there. We need to support and applaud that. Um, but then the buzz started coming through, and actually, this is not the first bill where the buzz was coming through. Hey, let's override the governor's veto. He vetoed another bill that was carried by Senator Kathy Kipp. She was angry at that and wanted to stir that up. I think that was Senate Bill 77. I'm not sure, but anyway, she so that conversation went away. But then this conversation for 86 came popping up kind of fast. I think I first heard about it on Thursday, and then the vote was Friday and they so there's some entertainment value, of course, in overriding a governor's veto. But I got called by I actually pulled over the side by one of the governor's senior staff guys, a guy that I really enjoy working with. His name is Xander Martin, and he he and I accomplished some great things together where we can align. And when he asked me, "Hey, are you going to be for or against this one?" And I said, "Well, I'm going to be against the override of the veto." I said, "And one reason you need to understand why is because when I become governor in 2 years from now, I'm going to veto the bejeebers out of things, and I don't want to be a hypocrite by overriding one now because I intend to throw all kinds of overriding opportunities to the future legislature." Yep.
Uh, Appreciate you being on. It's great to hear from you. And we're really grateful. I know a lot of libertarians were really happy to hear that you, without a any sort of any sort of concerns or regrets or hesitation, just uh, voted to allow this veto to pass through and did not approve of the veto override. With that being said, I appreciate. I wanted to ask you about some of these constitutional concerns. Some opponents of Senate Bill 86, including groups like the ACLU, Rocky Mountain Gun Owners, who are good friends of ours, raised concerns about potential constitutional issues. Did these concerns influence your decision? And if so, I'm kind of curious how, because we've seen parental rights come up, we've seen due process issues, First, Second, and Fourth Amendment issues that we've talked about earlier. I'm kind of curious what exactly went into your decision on this one to say why exactly, from a constitutional standpoint, were you unable to approve of Senate Bill 86?
Well, thanks for the question. You know what? I love the Rocky Mountain Gun Owners folks. Ian Escalante and I will team up quite often, and I really appreciate them a lot. But we didn't talk about this bill together. No, this was just reading the bill, and just the spidey senses come up, and you go, "There's this just doesn't feel right." And where it mostly didn't feel right to me, that pushed me to the no button when I first voted on that bill, was telling having law enforcement um, fulfilled or executed by private industry. And then the other thing, so I try always to try to keep the state government out of private industry as much as possible. And so there's a couple of aspects on that here. One is it's just what a bad idea. We're going to have law enforcement enforce rules and enforce rules that are not clearly defined, that will come up as they go along. I can only imagine what could go wrong with that over the time. But also imagine that this is being put together on a state level. If anything, it would be a national issue. But can you imagine the patchwork of laws that social media companies would have to handle if they're going to comply with state of Colorado, for state of Colorado residents? They'd have to know because there's quite a few people that I know of who signed up for social media on Facebook or whatever, and they signed up while they're in Colorado, and now they live in Florida or Texas. So if they're going to enforce this on a Colorado user, how are they going to verify that person's actual address? Are they going to geospatially, look at where their machine is at the time? I don't know, but they would have to do this only for folks operating within the four corners of Colorado, and that just seems like a silly notion to me. Also, it would have to require that they collect more information on all of us individually, including age, and it just creates a whole new opportunity for revealing information about us privately that ain't nobody's business unless we want to share that. But anyway, but it's the law enforcement aspect to this was the biggest piece to me that I said that just can't I just can't let that pass by. So I was a no on that primarily, and I just didn't look back. It was, um, yeah, went over and got passed like most bad bills in Colorado, and then it was a surprise to me that the governor vetoed it. But his explanation, I think, is really spot on.
Great points all around there. And we do have a comment in the chat from Will. He says, hearty thanks for showing up at the awful Jeffco School Board to remind them of parents' already enshrined rights. So you've also been a champion for parental rights, and you represent part of Jefferson County as well. So a lot
Do.
of appreciation there. Can you tell us a little bit about maybe a little bit about that with the school board and what's going on there?
Yes, so the school board is faced with what a lot of school boards are faced with, and in Jefferson County, those are one of those counties that used to be very red, and now it's quite blue, and so the enforcement of all the sex-oriented policies that have to do with LGBTQ and trans stuff, and those get pushed on kids, and it's just, you know, um, it's just an inappropriate place for government to be. And for training, I mean, when we were all kids, there was the teaching of the mechanics of sex and the biological aspects of reproduction and so on. That that's okay, that's fine, but then the social aspects of it, and here's some creative things you might want to consider. That's just really inappropriate, but it comes into some real porno, recruitment stuff that happens and wholly inappropriate. So of course the school board is faced with the decisions, and there's been some criminal acts. There are some big things that happen where teachers acting very inappropriately in the schools, and crimes actually committed. So with all of that, the parents who do get themselves involved appropriately in the school board meetings, they asked me a couple of times if I would come and speak and try to share their voice, and so I did. But if you think about it, it's I'm an elected person, and I'm going before another elected body, separately elected from the legislature. So I had to choose my words carefully, and I did. What I told them was, hey, I'm here because your constituents and mine, they have asked me to come appear before you and try to give some perhaps bigger voice to their concerns. And so I asked myself, what would a legislator bring to another elected body? And so what I bring is legislation. So I brought a one volume of the 44 volume set of the Colorado revised state statute, and I read to them out of the courts systems how it is the purview of the parents to raise their kids, and that they are the ones who are in control of the raising of their children, and nobody else, and no government entity overrides that. So I read that to them, and then I left that statute book behind so that they could all enjoy it together.
Senator Baisley, I really appreciate that. I'm a Jeffco parent, but I am not a part of the Jeffco school district because of how absurd it is. I mean, I mentioned it earlier. Libs of TikTok called it the worst school district in the country. I think
Oh, hi.
everybody should know that by heart. because
Yeah.
it truly is horrible. We are going to homeschool. Before that, we could send our kid to private school,
Yeah.
but it just becomes too expensive at a certain point, especially living in Colorado. So, I always encourage people to get their kids out of public school. So my question to you is, what are some ways that Jeffco parents can reach out, or not even just Jeffco parents, but kids that are parents that are struggling with their school district with all this garbage that's going on today? What are ways that we can fight? What are tools that we can implement that possibly are even underlooked right now?
You know, the biggest thing to do is to take over the school board. So think about this cycle that the teachers unions have. It's just a scandal what they do. They will raise money from dues, of course, and they will fund their slate of candidates for a school board. And school boards are nonpartisan elections, so people don't see which is a Democrat, which is a Republican, and so on the ballot. But they will put together a slate, and this slate of themselves, of people, of course, that would work with them and be their people. And then they run that slate, and when they win, they then hire the superintendent of their choosing. That superintendent will then withhold the dues from the teachers' paychecks in order to fund the next election to where they keep themselves in place. So not only is that a scandal, but think about this. Why do we have a school board? Well, in the Colorado state statute, it says that the Colorado state legislature cannot determine instruction. We can't direct instruction. That the only real role of the Colorado state legislature is to create and define school districts. And then from then on, the local people who live within that school district, they elect a school board. That school board, of course, hires the superintendent, and then the superintendent runs the schools. And so the school board then holds these public school board meetings so that the people and the parents can show up on that regular basis and hear what's going on and express their concerns. Well, the teachers union has no business showing up there. In fact, the no employee, no school employee ought to show up to those. Those are board meetings, and these are the stakeholders that are showing up there rightfully to hold that board to account. So if compare this to any other organization, let's say it's Lockheed Martin. Lockheed Martin has their shareholders will hire, they will choose who is on the board of directors for Lockheed Martin. The board of directors will hire the CEO president, and then they will hold their board meetings. Well, if a Lockheed Martin employer, a bunch of them showed up and said, "Hey, we don't like the way the president is running things," then those employees would be fired the next day. That's not their role. Their role is to fulfill what the customers want. Their role is not to try to run the board and the executive level from below. If they have any kind of problems, they should go to their HR folks or to their line management, not try to run the meetings, which they do. And they do that all the time and come in and protest. It's just wholly inappropriate because they displace the citizens, the customers, who are the consumers of that education. So anyway, so first of all, just my long answer to your short question is it really needs to be that the people stand up and take over those school board elections. And it's not tough to do because we can show through just emails and just all the usual ways why the Liberty folks would be better. Parents who stand up and are willing to run would be better than the union thugs. But we just don't do it often enough. I've been involved in several of those, and we've had our wins and we've had our losses. But boy, I just think we need to try to get back there. I also would love to see us pass a law or maybe have it in state constitution that says that if the union is going to get involved in the election by having its slate of electors, then it cannot, then that district cannot have a collective bargaining agreement because they have a conflict of interest in that kind of an arrangement where they are bargaining the collective bargaining agreement with themselves. So that's just wholly inappropriate. So one or the other, either have a collective bargaining agreement possibility or um, or get involved in the election, but not both. Um, so just look at, so I'll take this credit. Back in 2009 was when I was serving as vice chair of the Douglas County Republican Party. We took over the school board then, and we held on to it for a few years, long enough to get rid of the collective bargaining agreement with the union, and it has never returned. So once you get rid of it, you can keep it out, even when you lose control of the board, which we have lost control of the board several times, including right now. But anyway, as long as there's public schools, and I applaud you, Michael, because, and I say it from the well, which is, the podium on the Senate floor. I say it all the time. Parents, get your kids out of public schools. It's a bad idea to have them in government schools because look at all the things that they're doing. They're taking advantage of having total control and attention of your children for 6, 8 hours a day, and they are taking total advantage of that and displacing your role as parent. It's just a really terrible idea.
Well said, sir. Well said for sure. And appreciate you all the bills that you run. One this year that I really liked, I was really excited to see, and it was a bipartisan bill, so I was really surprised
Hmm.
when it failed. But House Bill 1069, increase stakeholder participation. And I know there was a similar bill last year that failed as well to allow a process in which a legislator can kind of start marketing or advertising, and those are the wrong words for it, but start really showing what they're working on to the public as a whole so that constituents, that people out there in the public can really have a say before the session even starts. Because, so often we do these legislative live streams every week, and we're really trying to encourage people to show up to committee hearings, to reach out to the elected representatives and senators, and really have a voice. But so often the public seems to be the last one notified of this. We go to these committee hearings and they say, oh, well, we've been talking to stakeholders about this bill for months now. And it's like, well, where's the public in this process? It's at that committee hearing, which is the bill's already been decided at that point, most of the time, how it's going to go. So I was really excited to see your bill 1069, but also curious to see that it failed. And we actually have a question in the chat about it as well. Colorado Engaged asks, did Matt Ball get battered hard by leadership or Weissman during that Senatorial 5 meeting? What happened behind the scene? Because there was definitely some confusion with the calls, I believe, for a division vote. And there looks like there was something going on there watching on the Colorado channel. Can you give us any insight onto that?
I can give you all the insight on that, and there is an entertainment value in this. So yeah, let me give credit where it's due. That bill 1069, it's a House bill because it came from the mind of Representative Stephanie Luck, who is my favorite legislator. I like her better than I like me. She's really a champion, and I appreciate her so much. Her district is within my district mostly. They're a little bit outside, but mostly. So we work together a lot. We share a lot of constituents, and so she came to me with that bill idea, and I signed on, but it all came from her. She wrote it, and it did pass through the House. And what it will do is it would avail our ideas when we are thinking about a bill beginning in the fall. So 90 days before the session starts. The sessions always start in early January. So, but beginning 90 days prior to that, we would uh, put our ideas out on a website that would be run by the legislative legal services folks, and make the public aware of it, and then solicit their input. And it could start as easy as just a title. Here's a bill title that I'm thinking about running. And so I'd love your ideas. So yeah, subject matter experts could chime in, parents, of course, citizens, and then organizations who keep tabs on things, Rocky Mountain gun owners, you guys, and so on. You could start informing people, hey, here's what's coming up. And then we could get, just as you described, Brandon, get people's involvement long before the committee hearings. So it came out of the House when it was in committee. I served on that committee for that day. I just traded places because I had three bills in that committee that all, surprising to me, all passed. Most of my bills have gotten killed this year, but I had three bills come in and pass that day. But I got to vote on all three of those. But at any rate, yeah, Matt Ball signed on. You kind of need to have a majority party member on your bills if you really want it to stand a chance, especially if it's the Democrats that are in the majority. So a lobbyist did that for me. She found Matt Ball willing, and Matt is on that same committee. So we presented in committee, and he was the only Democrat to vote for it. So it was Tom Sullivan and Mike Weissman voted against it, and Matt Ball and Rod Pelton and I voted. I'm sorry, and Byron Pelton and I voted for it. So 3-2, we got it out of there after um, some some heated exchange between Tom Sullivan and me. But anyway, so we when it came to the Senate floor, um, yeah, Tom Sullivan, who's just a crusty old curmudgeon, he called for division, which I have never seen done on second reading of a bill. So, second reading of a bill, for anyone who doesn't know, listening in, is that's when that bill first gets introduced onto the House floor or the Senate floor. So it's not the final vote, but it's when it gets introduced. So when they make it out of committee, you introduce it to the committee of the whole, and then it's a voice vote. We voice vote whether it moves on to its third and final vote, which happens no earlier than the following day. Well, um, Tom Sullivan calls for division vote, which any one of us members can do, but I've only seen that done with amendments, proposed amendments. So to do that on a second reading vote is highly unusual. I haven't seen that. This is the first time I've seen that in 7 years. So what that means is that it's a standing vote where you stand up to vote yes or no. So we stood up for our votes, yes and no, and the bill lost by one person. So and um, Matt, so I'm trying to think, was Matt? No, I think Matt voted for it that time. I'm trying to recall what his vote was, but because he came in the room last second. No, he must have voted for it because he stood up there and introduced it with me. So I'm sure he voted for it that division vote. So then I followed with another parliamentary trick, which was um, to submit an amendment to the committee of the whole, which to say that it actually passed. And then what that does is it forces a recorded vote on a bill. And if the people want to go on record as having voted for something that they did, um, unrecorded as a opposed vote, then maybe I could switch the votes, and it worked. It worked. So we got I got one vote in favor. So I flipped some that did not want to go on record as having voted against it, and it won. And that just really angered a couple of Democrats. Just one in particular, Jesse Danielson, who was mad at me for voting against her referral measure the day before. But anyway, so they had that senatorial five, and they went over in the corner, and yeah, that's when they were twisting Matt Ball's arm on it, and then he flipped his vote because they called for a recount of that recount. They were going to vote as many times as they needed to in order to kill that bill, and so they did. And so right after that, I was of course disappointed. I was texting Stephanie Luck the whole time. Here's what's going on, and I had to apologize to her that I didn't wasn't able to pull it across the finish line, even though I thought I had. But then Matt comes walking over to me, and so he pulls me aside and he says, "Hey, I just want you to know that I didn't realize just how important this bill was to my caucus, that they are so opposed to it. So that's why I had to vote against it because I just didn't realize just how much they disliked it." So I said, Matt, I just voted against every one of my fellow Republicans to override the veto of the governor's decision on 1069. You need to show some integrity and grow a pair. And so that was my conversation with Matt Ball on the side, and he just tucked tail and walked back over to his side of the aisle. And so we won't be friends for a while.
Talk about disappointing. It's amazing how Democrats love to talk about how they love transparency, love democracy, yet in Colorado we see Democrats stomping on transparency and democracy every single opportunity they can, whether it's Tabor, whether it's stakeholdering in the bill that you proposed with Rep. Luck. Uh, I gotta know how do we first off, I'm curious what exactly did the Democrats say to give how sorry what exactly were the reasons that Democrats gave for opposing stakeholdering and transparency in the state of Colorado with their vote against your bill?
Well, they gave none on the House floor. There was no debate against it. They simply voted. Um, and in the sequence that I just described. However, in committee, um, the two people who voted against it, uh, Tom Sullivan, he railed against, and I mentioned earlier in this conversation, and I mentioned earlier that he and I had some elevated words then. Um, he was barking at me for not having an come to his desk and lobbying him on it and try and to present the bill to him on a one-to-one basis and try to convince him that he ought to vote for it. And I, you know, certainly we do that when you think it's going to pay off. Um, I haven't bothered, and I told him that then. I said, your desk is a very uninviting place. The last time that I visited you over at your desk, you got so furious with me that you jumped up and chest bumped me, which he did. I said, you talk about people threatening to assault you. I said, well, I've only been assaulted in this building once, and it was by you. And anyway, so that was the elevation of anger there. But Mike Weissman, who voted against it also in committee, he just did his usual ramble. And if you've ever sat and watched him talk, it's a great sleeping pill, I'll tell you. And just so I I just glaze over anymore when he talks. He does a mumble that's a droning mumble that goes on for at least 5 minutes, and I have no idea what he's saying. Maybe I'm understanding the words, but my brain just kind of goes. So I don't know. Anyway, that was the only debate against 1069. It was in committee. On the floor, it had no debate. We presented it and then we voted.
Wow, yeah, that's a comment from Colorado Engaged here who says, "Thank you for the explanation. Weissman was having a fit on the video. She's going to clip that and do something with it." And then it says, "Irony, increased stakeholder participation passes 99% of the House. Then the Senate Dems make a motion to have zero debate on it." And I mean, what a perfect example of how the legislature works these days down there.
Eh,
But yeah, go ahead.
That's yeah.
But
No,
Senator,
that's
yeah.
very astute. Yeah.
Senator, you have jumped in to the big race here in 2026. Obviously, a lot of Coloradans are looking for changes. We're looking for new leadership. We're looking for somebody who's going to stand up to the Democratic majority in the legislature, and that would definitely be a governor. So, can you tell us a little bit about your governor's race? I know your polling has been really high. I know the business community is really looking to pushing you out there because they really think you're going to be a great advocate for them. But can you tell us a little bit about your decision to run for governor and just kind of give people that little sales pitch for your campaign?
Sure, thanks. So, yeah, the business community first urged me to run because I have been focusing on the economics because just like anything else, if the money's there, then the rest will follow. If people are have the opportunity to 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 cover their own personal expenses and their families, and have something left over to go tithe to the rest that are struggling. If we can get most people in that position, then we stop worrying about all the other things like affordable housing and that sort of thing. Our cars that we are band-aiding together, we can buy a newer car um, that will serve our families well and so on. So I just think it's just the right role for for the government at any level to create the environment of great economics. And I'll do a quick aside, a bill that I was fighting against recently that would result in higher density of housing. They said they were trying to resolve the demand for housing and our housing shortage. And I said that's not our role. I said we have a lot more land to move out to towards Kansas, so let's just move out there. I said what I do think would be our role would be to build really great freeways to get out there, to facilitate infrastructure, or to build infrastructure, facilitate commerce, but not to decide how dense a neighborhood ought to be, especially at the state level. At any rate, just with the things that I've been working, and I could go on about them quite a bit, of CHIPS Act and the Quantum Tech Hub, and even the little more controversial, maybe the Sundance Film Festival, bringing that to the state. I work on those things to try to create economic opportunity. So the business community has pressed for me to step into that role, and that was really the first I'd never thought about it. I never saw myself in that role. It wasn't an aspiration for me. But as they kept talking about it, and I started thinking, well, maybe that's something I ought to be doing. So I'm all in now, and what I'm pushing for is frankly those things that I've been working on, which is economics, trying to get good education going. And I'll share with you that I've spent my first 6 years on the education committee, virtually demanding to be on the education committee, and I was leveraging that towards building relationships with the higher ed people. So I do have great working relationships now with the president of the University of Colorado and MSU Denver and UNC, CSU, School of Mines leadership, and I lean on them. And when opportunity comes up, I will call them, and I will have meetings with them, and they'll talk to me, and we'll go to lunch together. And I've built those very deliberately to say, listen, let's start fixing the uh, the indoctrination camp uh, methodology. Let's teach relevance, because I'm trying to create jobs here, and the folks ought to be prepared to go take those good jobs, and so the teaching ought to be relevant to that. And it should just seem like the total waste of time to do all the indoctrination nonsense. And I think we've been moving that needle. That's been a big goal of mine, and I'm feeling good about it. One thing that you don't see in Colorado is the big protests that we see out on the coast for, pro-Palestinian or anti-Israel protests. That's not accidental. I'll tell you that we have these conversations behind the scenes on how do we address them when they start to flare up? How do we prevent them in the first place? So I'll take some credit there. It's just not something we want to talk about a whole lot because we're being successful, and we're being successful quietly on that. Third area is kind of related to that, is in safety. And three areas of safety is certainly and crime. So we suffer a lot of crime, and because of the the way that the state has picked on the blue, and made it tough for our law enforcement to protect us. And one way, of course, that they've been doing that is telling them they cannot work with ICE. I mean, they passed a bill this year making it illegal for employees of a local municipality to inform that, hey, here is an illegal alien here. We got a Tren de Aragua gang member who's appearing in court. That is going to be an illegal act, assuming that the governor signs that bill into law. He may have already, I'm not sure, but what the status of that one is, but it passed through. Anyway, I want to rail against that sort of thing hard. I've introduced just an opposing bill to that to get rid of all those restrictions that our law enforcement has put on them. At any rate, law enforcement, wildfires, we certainly have our share of wildfire challenges, but I've been working quite a bit through, along with others in the state, to acquire aircraft. We now have two big helicopters, what we call Black Hawk helicopters, but they're outfitted for firefighting. They're called Firehawks now. And so now we have two of those. We have five other fixed wing aircraft. And we're making use of new technology created by Lockheed Martin to use AI to predict where fires are going to break out before they do, to get on scene before it gets out of control. Emergency management systems, we have just a decrepit old way of financing our 911 folks. When we call an ambulance, when we call firefighters to our house and so on, the way that they get paid is so bad, especially in the ambulance services. If they don't transport a patient to a hospital, then they can't bill for it. It's just an old law the way it was put together. And then when they do bill for it, then in most cases, the patient is shocked to find out that their insurance didn't cover it because companies are not covering ambulance rides anyway. So I've just got a bill through that just went through and is addressing that in a big way. That's something that I've been working on for 5 years to try to straighten all that out. And by the way, I you can watch for coming from the emergency management people from across the state, a big endorsement of Mark Baisley for governor. And then last thing I'll mention is property taxes. So, we concern ourselves with all our taxes and how terribly we've been spending the money at the state. But I think I have the solution for how property taxes are such an issue and have been recently, because it's tied to, and I think inappropriately tied to, the value of our properties. What does the value of our property have to do with the amount of money that we pay for taxes? So if your property value shoots up 45% like it did a couple of years ago, does that mean that the library district needs 45% more revenue? I don't think so. And if your property value drops 25% in value, does that mean that the fire district needs 25% less revenue? It does not. So I'd like to have baseline everyone's budgets, all the special districts' budgets, and then let them grow along the lines of Tabor, where taxpayers' bill of rights. So it grows by inflation and population that's represented in that district, so that they can count on their budgets. And then if they need a new fire truck, then they follow taxpayer bill of rights requirements and go ask the people for a little more money to go, or some temporary money to go buy a new fire truck, and so on. Anyway, it would stop the big swings that are just killing people, and then we would appropriately fund the services that we all rely on. But anyway, that's, I guess, the nature of it. I'll just tell you that I'm feeling pretty confident about the role. I think I found myself in the right position to go work that. I have quite a bit of management experience. I'm currently running my second company, and I've worked for multiple Fortune 500 companies. So I know what that's like to run a big operation and to try to do that efficiently. And there's some interesting people been stepping up here to me lately, quietly saying, I want to, from the inside, saying, I want to help you to be successful in this because I work in such and such agency, and boy, could we use some Doge work over here, So anyway, thank you for the opportunity to talk that one, Brandon.
Uh, Senator Baisley, you brought up something that was very interesting to me, and I want to ask you about one other thing.
Sure.
You just brought up AI technologies to predict forest fires. My question is, how do we use new technologies to surveil the land, surveil mountainous areas where we might see future forest fires, while also protecting our Fourth Amendment privacy protections as citizens? And then the other question is, one thing I haven't seen within the governor's race so far is a address of the concerns of the looming energy crisis that we're going to see in Colorado very, very shortly, much faster than anybody really forecast. The only person I've seen even address it was Sheriff Mike Cell on during Brandon's interview a few weeks ago. So I guess I want to give you the opportunity to address that as well and hear what your energy plan for Colorado would be.
Sure. So I appreciate you bringing that up. And yeah, Sheriff Mike Sell's a dear friend. I love him to pieces. Um, yeah, and we will have challenges for new energy demands, not just with the obvious growth of population, and AI, which is just a huge CP cycle demander, and also digital currency is another area that is expanding and will expand a lot more, hopefully, here in Colorado. I've had some very cool conversations here recently with leadership in that industry, and they would like to expand more in Colorado. But the energy demand is phenomenal for it. Um, so yeah, we're going to have to get Colorado out of the way of um, preventing things like small, clean nuclear power plants. I foresee the day when uh, each data center will have its own, nuclear or some other power source just connected to the building, kind of a thing, because it's going to take all of that. When we get in our own way of AI through a bill that passed last year. I don't know if you're familiar with that. I believe it was Senate Bill 205 was the number, and it was signed by Governor Polis with a couple provisions. One is that the date, the go-to date, the go-live date would be extended out into 2026, and that in 2025 we would create a new bill that would fix all the problems with it. And so I've been serving on the task force, the AI task force, to try to solve those problems. And we haven't, because the sponsor of the bill, who's the majority leader of the Senate, Robert Rodriguez, he's just digging in his heels. He hates that he signed on to that bill, or to that letter, that commitment to the governor to compromise things. But at any rate, we're we have to solve this in a week, because otherwise that date comes and we're all in trouble. So yeah, we just have to we have to override, the people need to override the will of the majority, the current majority in the legislature. And we might have to just do this by a ballot measure where we override that current laws that restrict the generation of power that's sufficient for just getting all that business done. That in the quantum world as well will be a bit of a demand, um, but AI especially, digital currency, of course. But yeah, we can't do it in the current configuration with the majority being held by a single party that's opposed to good energy. They want clean, but they don't want energy, kind of, it seems. But anyway, but to answer your other question, Michael, though, how do we AI fire predictions and so on? And so the software, well, they're called R. The three are weather and the fuel on the ground. So it has, just through optical scanning, is able to determine what is dead wood on the ground through software analysis of the optical image of the property of the land as those low orbiting satellites are looking at the landscape. And then the third is lightning strikes. So when we have the combination of wind and lightning strikes on dry fuel, then they're able to, through the patterns of what happened in the past over the data that they've gathered the last previous 20 years or so, then they tell me about 92% accurate in their prediction of when new flames will spark up. So that they are using that now in parallel to just what they normally do. So they don't want to, for liability's sake, rely on it until we have insurances in place and Colorado, state of Colorado has purchased it and accepts the liability of using it, or the Forest Service that is interested in buying it as well. But it is being used now, just in parallel to the more traditional approaches. And then you asked about privacy on cameras. So yeah, so there's a bill going through the system right now that would place cameras around, and it's specifically one company that does that. And the cameras that would be able to pick up when there's a flame, when their flame comes up, and also lightning strikes and so on. Um, but but then how do we prevent surveillance from happening, accidental or otherwise, through those same cameras that are looking around through the woods and into neighborhoods, perhaps, and so on. And I don't have a nice clean answer to that, except that I think we need to train the AI on that, give it some instruction to omit, ignore, not record, and or delete, and so on. I mean, it's even AI is software, and if we tell it what to do, then we can give it some restrictions. So, but it is a worthy concern, is is privacy. So I appreciate you bringing that up, because yeah, we need to address that. It's like anything, new technologies always bring new vulnerabilities, and we have to address them together.
Well, Senator, I really appreciate all your work this year at the legislature, the many years that you've done down there, being a voice for liberty, a voice for reason, and of course, really appreciate your vote against this horrible social media regulation bill that we just saw. Quick last little wrap up here. What are your words of wisdom or advice to maybe some of those House Republicans who are cautious, who are, they're getting the text messages, they're getting the phone calls telling them to not to go along with the veto override on Senate Bill 86. But what are your any thoughts that to share with them about why they should not vote to override the governor's veto, just briefly?
Yeah, don't let emotion take over your decision. How cool that would be to join the Democrats and override the governor's veto. Save that for when it's really going to count. This one is problematic. This bill is problematic. It's it is it should remind everybody of Twitter before Elon Musk, and it should concern us all of when the government is nationalizing industry towards its purposes, things will get out of control, and we would regret it. So I I understand the concerns, and I share them, of course, on the vulnerability of the youth, and how they get exploited on social media. But let's find more direct ways to address that, and to let law enforcement to do its job, because they can do some pretty efficient and effective take some pretty efficient and effective steps towards catching the perpetrators, and we don't have to conscript the industry to do it for them. So let's bypass this exciting opportunity to override a veto, and just take a much more measured and deliberate, smart approach to accomplish what they're believing this might do.
And then last question for you. Senate Bill 77 was vetoed before Senate Bill 86. The governor on this horrible bill, I would say, on Cora, weakening our Colorado Open Record Act law here in Colorado. And, that bill was pushed off a week. They moved that over to May 2nd and decided to go ahead full speed ahead with 86, but 77 got delayed. Any insight there? Do they not have the votes, or is there more controversy, or anything you can give us, any update on Senate Bill 77?
I can give you very little. I don't know why they've delayed that. I sit right next to the Republican sponsor of that bill, and that's Janice Rich, and she would like to see that veto overridden on that. Um, and I've just not dived into that one close enough. I just hear them talk about it. I see how fired up Senator Kathy Kipp is about the veto, and I know she really wants to see that overturned for the sake of her bill. And but I honestly, with the workload that we all hold, I I'll spend the time on the things that I have to when I have to, and I haven't had to spend time on that one, so I don't have a nice comprehensive response for you on that one.
Wonderful. Well, really appreciate your time. We'll let you get back to your night. You got a busy last week and a half ahead of
Yeah.
you. So thank you so much. Really appreciate your leadership down there and best wishes to you. Good luck in this last little end of the session.
Thank you, gentlemen. It's an honor.
Thank you so much. It was great to talk to you for the first time, and best of luck during these 12 crazy or 10 next crazy days.
Well, let's not make it the last time, Michael. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Bye now.
Take care, sir. Awesome. Great information there. Really appreciate Senator joining us. And yeah, but stay tuned, folks. We got a lot more to talk about. We're going to go over some of the bills of the week here. But just before we jump into that, Michael, any final thoughts there on the senator?
I thought it was fantastic. I wish this wasn't me meeting him for the first time. Uh, great leader. I mean, look at his votes, look at his record. The most important thing you want to look at for a politician is their record, and far and away he is the best senator in Colorado. Uh Carson is Carson is the next best, and it's not even close between him and Carson. So I wish we could get more and more leaders like Senator Baisley in the Senate. We have some of the best leaders in the state in the House. We also have some of the worst leaders in the state in the House. And if you look at the Senate, I would say it's Baisley and then just kind of everybody else. I mean, it doesn't even make it's absolutely striking. So don't get me wrong. I like some of the people. I really liked Senator Bright when we had him on. I really liked Senator Pelton when we had him on. But in terms of just records and the politicians, it's Baisley and everybody else.
Yeah, well said, Michael Baisley, and then the rest of them, and you brought up a great point because talk is cheap, right? We have all these people running for office, and they're talking about what a hero they're going to be for liberty, and how much better they are than the Democrats, and how amazing they are, and this and that. But really, talk is cheap. The proof is in the voting record for sure. And Senator Baisley, in his many years down there, has proven that he is a true liberty leader, and very thankful for him in taking that stand. And yeah, wish him all the luck in his campaign and his future political offices because that's the kind of guy that Colorado needs for sure.
Absolutely.
Well, awesome. You ready to jump back into the bills of the week?
Let's get into it, Brandon.
Perfect, folks. Well, don't go anywhere. We're going to tell you what's being heard this week. We're going to give you some insight into how you can have a voice, how you can be empowered, how you can make a difference down at the legislature. As we said, there's this last little rush. 8 to 10 days, whatever it ends up being here. So let's jump in here and talk about what's being heard this week in committee hearings, folks. And this is where you can show up, speak out, have a voice, get involved, and yeah. And let's jump into it. So let's jump over tomorrow, Monday, April 28th, upon adjournment in LSBA, the Transportation, Housing, and Local Government Committee, three bills. And folks, we're not going to spend a ton of time on this, but I guarantee you, you're going to be educated, you're going to be empowered, you're going to be extremely knowledgeable on what's happening in our state government. So stay tuned and let's jump in here. So, Michael, this one is House Bill 1334 with Jennifer Bacon there. Not the good kind of bacon, unfortunately, but this bill is the condemnation authority of certain special districts. So, I was kind of excited when I saw this bill at first because it's like about eminent domain. And I was like, oh man, maybe they're going to try and like restrict eminent domain. And this bill does. It does restrict eminent domain. Eminent domain's terrible, but it only restricts eminent domain to government-owned property. So it's like state-owned property of a home rule city, town, city, county, or a city and county or county. So they're exempt from eminent domain. But the rest of us, private property owners out there, it doesn't do anything to help us there. So I just had to point this out. Don't want to spend a lot of time on it, but it's like, come on, folks. Like these people are supposed to be representing the people. They're supposed to be standing up for our rights. And I'm like, yeah, eminent domain's no good. If you're taking the government's property, let's go ahead and exempt that from here. So it's like just that total double standard. Any thoughts on this one, Michael?
You nailed it. You nailed it as far as I'm concerned. For lack of a better term, this is just the state government trying to swing its quote unquote power around. There's another word I'd use, but it's not the most appropriate. So we'll say they're swinging their power around. And of course, Bacon wants to have all the power and authority to her. So not surprised with this bill that they would do something like 1334.
Yeah, I mean, good or bad, whatever. It's kind of a dumb bill, but wanted to bring it up, being heard on Monday. But there's two other bills in the same committee. Transit reform. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh, there's a lot here. I mean, some of the worst legislators down there. You got Meg Froglips, you got Faith DUI Winter there, Amon Jode appointment, and William Lindstedt, the little I don't know what to say about that guy. He looks like a little doll or something. If you ever see his face, like a little kid or something. But this bill, of course, is all about RTD, folks. And RTD is one of the largest governments in Colorado. They have tons of money. They screw up constantly. Ridership is down because of the drug use, the danger, the inconvenience of it all, of course. But just wanted to bring this one up because it is a massive bill. Look at this. Look how much there is to it, folks. But if you're interested in transit, if you want to get involved, then definitely pay attention to this because it's something that you should know about for sure. But one of the big things here is it creates new requirements for RTD with the goal of improving its performance. They include strategic planning, performance tracking, coordination among tracking agencies, transit agencies, excuse me, local governments, and planning organizations. So you'll have RTD entering into service partnerships with local governments, institutions of higher education, business and housing entities, special districts to expand transit services. And then I know this is going to be your finest city cycling there in the chat, your favorite part here, or everybody else out there. Must align with state climate goals, establish worker retention goals, comply with federal transit worker safety directives. But of course, they're going to work with state climate goals there, and of course redesign our system there for that and this and that. But nonetheless, it's a huge reworking of the failed RTD's failed program, and just want to get in front of people because if this is your issue, if this is something you care about, definitely look at this bill and maybe even show up to the committee hearing on Monday.
There's and Brandon, scroll down just a little bit. Right there, perfect. See where it says right up there, aligned with statewide greenhouse gas reduction targets. Just type in Transportation Vision 2035. The top post when you do that should be something that says it's from Colorado.gov. Governor Polis announces vision to reduce greenhouse GHG emissions, which stands for greenhouse gas emissions, and it's like a little press release. When you open that up, it's from Tuesday, Tuesday, November 19th, 2024. And then when you do that, the top line today, Governor Polis announced Colorado Transportation Division 2035. If you click on that, that will pop up a PDF for you. I highly recommend opening up that PDF because that's going to go line by line everything that they're trying to do over the next few years, and it's going to line up with exactly what they're trying to do. And you're going to see weird little things. For example, there's a something called mode shift. That's what they call all this garbage where they're trying to transition everybody out of motor vehicles. They're calling it mode shift, where they're going from don't drive a car, ride a bike. I mean, and who doesn't want to ride a bike in January in Colorado along Colfax and you slip and a car runs over you? I mean, can't imagine anything bad about that. It's just absolutely absurd. They're trying to get you out of cars and basically be forced to be limited in your ability to travel or be forced to comply with state laws and regulations and ride on government transit. So it's a whole thing where they're just trying to get you to comply with what they want, and it's more of a carrot, but they're trying to turn into what Natalie Minton says, the sticks. So watch out, and I highly recommend you guys look that up because that's what they're trying to do with this bill as well as the next bill we're going to talk about.
Yeah, definitely pay attention to this, folks, because they are waging a war on cars. A lot of people think, okay, public transit, great stuff, but then it's like they start coupling it with this like World Economic Forum type stuff of this transportation vision 2035 and all this ridiculousness. And it's like the real agenda. They start putting all that agenda into this stuff as well. So it's something to keep in front of you. And then, yes, of course, Senate Bill 30, the increased transportation mode choice to reduce emissions. So we've seen some ridiculous bills this year, like putting little warning labels on gas pumps. And of course, this is just continuing along with that. So Some of the worst down there. There's the Faith DUI winter, Meg Frog Lips, and Henriksen, who's hopefully going to be retired here in 2026. One of the most key races that Republicans need to win down in Pueblo. But this bill requires the Department of Transportation, no later than July 2026, and in coordination with local governments and transit agencies, and they struck all this part from the bill, create a transit and active transportation project inventory that identifies gaps in transit, bicycle and pedestrian infrastructure, and access on state highways and right-of-ways that are controlled and maintained by this transportation department. No later than July 1st, 2026, metropolitan planning organizations must create, here we go, must create a transit and active transportation project inventory that identifies gaps in transits, bicycle and pedestrian infrastructure, and access within the network of this and this and this. They're typically subject to planning and programming by the Metropolitan Planning Organization. And then, so once they put these plans together, they're going to present this report to the Transportation Legislation Review Committee on the transit and active transportation project inventories created, including an assessment of existing and potential funding sources for the projects listed in its inventories. The department and metropolitan planning organizations must update the inventories as part of the process here, and then use that to inform other plans. So, of course, they want to get us out of cars, of course, and want to keep moving, develop clear definitions for roadway capacity investments and state of good repair investments. But it continues there. It goes on, folks. Really, some of the more nefarious parts have to do with local government. The bill allows a local government to adopt goals for the share of total trips within a specified geographic area completed using certain transportation methods. So we saw this bill last year. We saw a bill, thankfully, that died, if you guys remember last year, where they were basically trying to say that they were trying to limit and like forced carpooling, right? Where like companies had to say, oh, they had to track how much commuting distance their workers did, and then like they'd have goals that were like forced on them to reduce that. And so like it was like forced carpooling. It was like basically trying to get people so they're not driving. That's basically kind of the this I'm seeing this come up again with here this bill. But yeah, they have goals of how many trips are made, in cars, and then they're going to come up with plans to start getting rid of that and reduce vehicle miles traveled and greenhouse gas emissions and improve access to non-driving transportation options in disproportionately impacted communities. So there you go, folks. I mean, the agenda is there. Get us out of cars and move on. But any thoughts there on this one, Michael?
It all aligns with their overall goals, as you said, to get us out of cars and get us to uh, use one of our either limited choice options or use government transit.
Definitely. So those are the three bills we wanted to bring to your attention that are being heard in the Transportation, Housing, and Local Government Committee on Monday, April 28th, tomorrow. Let's move on to the Judiciary Committee. So this is a bill that Senator Baisley brought up here, which is in the old state library upon adjournment. It is the Protect Civil Rights Immigration Status. So this is doubling down on Colorado sanctuary state policies. Senate Bill 276. So check this out, one of our highlighted bills of the week. Of course, you got the Senadora Julie Gonzalez, first time ever wearing a cowboy hat. Mike Weissman, the best way to fall asleep in the state Senate. Don't know much about Velasco. And then Lorena Garcia, the card-carrying Democratic Socialist who wants to deport anybody who voted for Trump and ban all our guns. So protect civil rights immigration status. Basically, they want to just, keep it going, repealing affidavit requirements. So if you, okay, let's start at the top here. Under current law, a person who does not have lawful immigration status must submit an affidavit stating that they have either applied for lawful presence or will apply for lawful presence as soon as they're eligible when that person is applying for in-state student tuition classification or an identification document pursuant to the Colorado Road and Community Safety Act. So that's when somebody got their driver's license. Now this repeals that, so they could get their identification document. They could apply for in-state tuition and say, "Hey, listen, I'm going to stay being in the country illegally, and not have to worry about that." This bill repeals that affidavit requirement. And then also, under current law, a jail custodian is generally required to release a defendant within 6 hours after the defendant has been granted a personal reconnaissance bond or is prepared to post bond. The bill prohibits the jail custodian from delaying a defendant's release for the purpose of an immigration enforcement operation. So even if that person has a detainer on them, even if they know they're in the country illegally, they still have to let them out of jail, just let them go free, basically. So getting rid of that there. Under current law, a criminal defendant may petition a court to vacate a guilty plea to a Class 1 or Class 2 misdemeanor or municipal offense if the criminal defendant alleges that This bill extends the ability to petition a court to vacate a guilty plea to a class three misdemeanors as classified at the time of plea, traffic misdemeanors, and petty offenses. So there you go. They're just letting people basically get off the hook for breaking the law, including being in the country illegally. You can read through it. It keeps going, but basically it prohibits all of these things. It basically prohibits a peace officer or an employee or agent of a detention facility from allowing federal immigration authorities access to part of the detention facility unless the authorities are investigating a federal crime as required by a federal warrant or writ of transfer an inmate to or for federal custody. So basically, they're just saying, hey, listen, a peace officer employed by the Colorado State Patrol, Municipal Police Department, or Town Marshal Sheriff Office or a county sheriff's office is prohibited from arresting or detaining an individual on the basis of a civil immigration detainer request. The bill extends the prohibition to a peace officer designated by the state as a peace officer. So they're just really trying to expand this idea that illegal immigrants are safe here in Colorado and shouldn't be arrested. So, an opportunity here for Colorado to lose federal funding, of course. What do you think about this one, Michael?
I think it's a horrible bill. It's going to end up making Colorado a more dangerous place. I mean, even regardless of whether, as a libertarian, you support this bill or support illegal immigration or not, the very first, not necessarily line, but the very first statute should be very concerning because why should any libertarian support the ability to pull more funds for student tuition from the state government? It doesn't make any sense whatsoever. But at the end of the day, we are in a very, very dangerous place in Colorado. In the Colorado legislature is trying to make us an even more dangerous place with this bill.
100%. They don't want anybody in the state of Colorado to be able to have conversations with federal immigration enforcement. They don't want anybody to be involved there. The bill prohibits public child care centers, schools, local education providers, institutions of higher education, healthcare facilities, publicly supported libraries, and their employees from collecting certain personal identifying information, except as requested by law. And of course, we know that has to do with immigration status. But yeah, basically a lot of stuff there to ensure that nobody can actually work with federal immigration authorities. So interesting stuff. Interesting stuff there. Of course, courthouses, these other places. So they just want to do everything possible. You can read through this bill, folks. But yeah, they even bring up Senate Bill 131 from back from 2021, which is part of the reason they call Colorado a sanctuary state. But a lot of information in this bill, absolutely crazy. We'll go ahead and move on, but it's something that people need to be aware of. That's for sure. So, being heard on a Tuesday now, Senate Bill 34 in the State Civic, Military, and Veterans Affairs Committee. Don't want to spend a ton of time on this one, but wanted to bring it up to people because it is a gun bill. This is this voluntary do not sell firearms waiver. It's kind of interesting bill. Of course, suicide is a horrible thing. Never want that to happen with anybody. But the idea that individuals are going to place themselves on a list to voluntarily waive their right to purchase a firearm, and then it's going to basically force the state government to comply with them not being able to authorize the sale of a firearm to somebody. I don't know. It's a slippery slope. It seems like why is this bill necessary? And then I don't know. I see it as a way that it's starting. I hate to use the slippery slope argument, but they're starting in this way. And then I think they can expand it. They can keep moving and they can keep going in that way. But what do you think about this one, Michael? It's definitely an interesting one.
I can't fully figure this one out. I feel like there's something nefarious and very pernicious about this bill because it's too weird on the surface and it doesn't fully make sense. It feels like they're getting ready to set us up for something even more nefarious with this bill on its own. That's the vibe I get from this bill, but there's nothing on the surface that I can see that necessarily indicates something bad. I mean, I feel like possibly my speculation is they're trying to set this up for expanding red flag laws at an even greater level once this bill passes during another legislative session. Because I remember when this bill initially came out, this was a transition from trying to force mandatory red flag laws for anybody that goes to therapy, which was only going to make it Colorado a dramatically more dangerous place because there are some people that do need to go talk to somebody to help them kind of take them off the ledge. And those people do need help, and those people still need their gun rights, and they're doing the right thing by going and talking to somebody. But with this bill, with the original bill, they were going to punish everybody, and that was just going to continue to make that would make Colorado an even more dangerous place when it already is as dangerous as it is already. And the violent crime rates just keep on rising, and we are going to be at the top if we're not already close to the top of the most violent state in the country lists, for lack of a better phrase.
Definitely, and I'm always very nervous to see anybody added to the prohibited purchasers of firearms list. And so that is a concern for sure. And yeah, interesting the genesis of this bill, where it came from, and kind of the idea behind it. But of course, Finest City Cycling points out that the study that they used in this bill is total nonsense. That firearms in the home increase the chance of suicide. That has been debunked. So, just wanted to bring this to people's attention for sure. In this same committee is another anti-gun one, and we've talked about it before, so we won't spend a ton of time on it, but wanted to bring it up again because not really anybody else is talking about it. And the bill's been amended. I think it's actually been amended in a good way. Let's take a look at it. Senate Bill 158 being heard this Tuesday. State agency procurement and disposal of certain items. Well, of course, what are those certain items? They're firearms, that's for sure. So they did change the bill. Of course, some of the worst gun grabbers in our legislature there. You got they, them, Kyle Brown on here. The bill creates procurement practices for firearms or items regulated pursuant to the federal NFA, the National Firearms Act, by the state. The bill applies to all bids. The state sources enters into awards, amends, renews, or extends on or after January 2026 for procuring firearms or items regulated pursuant to the NFA from a contractor or bidder. During a governmental body's contract sourcing method process, request during the term of the contract, a contractor or bidder shall follow a procurement verification process to confirm that the contractor or bidder engages in safe business practices, of course, right? So the dispose part was what was concerning me, right? Because it's an idea to remove more guns out of society, but they changed that out here and kind of rewrote the bill. It says the Attorney General may assist the Department of Personnel in developing processes and procedures to implement the verification process. So this part here was about disposing firearms, and that's all been struck from the bill, which I think is a good thing. So they basically, this whole bill originally was about getting guns off the streets and then destroying them, which I don't like that idea. They should give them away to the people or something like that, maybe sell them off. But they changed it to about how the state receives guns and then making sure that they are part of safe business practices and stuff. So kind of interesting, just a total 180. And that's what's so crazy about some of these bills down there, that people need to realize that a bill could be released and it's like either good or it's bad. And then all of a sudden it just totally changes. Of course, we saw that with Senate Bill 3, but it's very interesting to keep an eye on because there's like bills that, people are excited to be a sponsor on, or people are excited to testify in front of, and then it totally changes. So it's something just people need to be aware of. So I wanted to bring that part of it, but also give people an update on this gun bill. What do you think, Michael?
I think that they should amend this bill to repeal the NFA and make us a sanctuary state from the NFA on a federal level, and take those old buildings and turn them into dog parks in Colorado.
I love it. That would be amazing. That would be great. So interesting bill there, folks. Let's go ahead and jump over here to Tuesday and the Finance Committee, Senate Committee Room 357, Tuesday at 2 p.m. Of course, an interesting bill, House Bill 1303. Wanted to bring that one up. Had a guest post on my website on freestatecolorado.com about this, so definitely check it out. Really good article. I'll share it in the chat there. But this is funding for motor vehicle collision prevention. So this is our little do-gooder state legislators here, increasing our insurance costs. Of course, they say, and there's been articles about this, but they say it's going to lower automobile insurance costs by reducing the number of collisions. There's no actual say that that's going to happen. But basically, what they're going to do is they're going to have a fee, add a crash prevention fee of a specified maximum amount on each of your automobile insurance policies. So, you have an automobile insurance policy for each vehicle. So each vehicle is now going to have a higher fee, of course, now from that insurance company is responsible for collecting, which is ridiculous. Then that insurance company's got to give that to the Crash Prevention Enterprise Fund, and continuously appropriate it to the enterprise. And they're going to spend a lot of that money trying to figure out how to reduce motor vehicle collisions. Will it ever work? Who knows? What difference does it make? They're just going to raise our insurance fees, send it to their little buddies here who are going to do all these little public entities that are not part of the state and even private entities. So they're little NGOs or little nonprofit groups that are all about vulnerable road users and stuff can get this money and then present these little programs and little plans so that they can, build more bike lanes. They can build all these little different things here and there. But of course, all of us are going to pay for it. So absolutely and totally ridiculous. And people are calling them out. I don't know if you guys saw the headlines that with this bill last week, but they were saying people were skeptical. Like you're saying, you're going to increase insurance costs, but all the bill sponsors say we're going to lower automobile insurance costs by putting a new fee that's going to make everybody pay more. Like it's the most Orwellian thing ever, and how they just totally are unashamedly just making stuff up. It's absolutely crazy. And yeah, bad stuff. And Finest City Cycling says they did try this last year and earlier this year as a vulnerable road user protection fee. They were going to add it to our registration fees when we get plates. They killed that bill and now brought it back for insurance. So dumb stuff, folks. Definitely check out the article at freestatecolorado.com on 1303 here. Definitely worth checking out. But bad news. What do you think, Michael?
Oh, I thought it was interesting. You remember a couple weeks ago, you and I and Jessica Finsky, Natalie Minton, Missy, a lot of us went to the Capitol to testify on the Tabor lawsuit in committee. Before that bill was heard, there was another bill heard about home fire enterprise about how house fire and wildfire home insurance enterprises. There was one bill by good old they them Kyle Brown that was that was introduced where they're going to add uh, enterprises at one time on homeowners in the state of Colorado. And apparently, two different enterprises was supposedly going to lower your insurance rates when at the same time the bill was going to not only give you two separate charges for those two enterprises but also force individual people who might live in, vulnerable areas that might be at high risk of wildfires of, doing certain things like roof replacements. Otherwise, these individuals not be able to get a brand new roof, uh, or require other mandatory things that were going to cost homeowners a ton of money that could put them over the edge when there's a lot of people that can't really afford to live where they're living, and it might force them into foreclosure, forbearance. It could also force them to just sell their home because it's extremely expensive to live in Colorado. So this stuff is extremely concerning. It's if this was a good idea, the free market would have already done it. And at the end of the day, you've got to be very careful with with these things because at the end of the day, just like with homeowners, this is going to increase the cost of car insurance. So this is another bill to oppose. It's very concerning what they're going to do. And like we were talking about before, Transportation Vision 2035, this is going to make it more and more difficult to own a vehicle and increase mode shift. Carrot and stick. This is the stick.
Right. And they're going to pull $16.5 million out of our economy to do it. And look at this. Of course, it's a fee, so it's not going into the Tabor refund. It doesn't count under our taxpayers' Bill of Rights. Total scam. That's why they do it as a little enterprise. And folks, I know people say, well, it's only $3 a year on each of your cars. But folks, we're going to pay so much money for insurance already. And you think it's going to stay at $3 a year? They're going to say, oh, well, we need more money next year. We need to build more of these little entities out there, fund all these little entities out there and build all these little projects and this and that. So bad news, folks. Absolutely ridiculous. Bad bill for sure. So let's go ahead and move on there. And Michael, you hit the nail on the head with House Bill 1302. And it's very appropriate that these bills are right after each other, both in number and in the same committee, the Senate Finance Committee here on Tuesday. Increase access to homeowners insurance enterprises. So, of course, that's how they couch everything. They're going to increase access. But they're going to strengthen Colorado Homes Enterprises with the state-owned business that imposes and collects a fee from insurance companies, including the Fair Plan Association, that offer homeowners insurance policies in Colorado. The fee is equal to 1.5% of the dollar amount of the premiums that the insurer collects from homeowners for issuing policies. So everybody's homeowners insurance is going to increase as well. There you go, folks. And then they're going to use that money for a grant program to strengthen these homes against the risk of future damages by winds, wildfire, and hail, and other things. And yeah, like you said, I get it. There's some people out there who don't necessarily have great homeowners insurance options because they are in a wildfire area. Colorado's been ravaged by that in recent years. So I understand the idea behind it. But like you said, Michael, the private market, the free market, the private industry would take care of that. They're going to be some sort of solution. But of course, there's so many regulations on insurance companies. But what's crazy to me is just the fact that they're going to increase our homeowners insurance here in Colorado. I mean, life is so expensive already. And increase this revenue by 13 million, by 26 million dollars, pulling out of the economy. They just keep pulling millions and millions out of the economy for their little government programs here. I mean, of course, they're putting people into poverty here, and that's just the nature of government, folks. So, yeah. Any other thoughts on this one, Michael?
Uh, I pretty much covered everything I wanted to say about this one on the other bill. Uh, One thing I will say about the insurance industry, when we did go to testify, it was amazing to hear how the industry, I don't want to say the word simped. There's a word that rhymes with buck that they did to the government. They did that very, very hard, and you could tell, but at the end of the day, if this was good for the insurance industry, they would have done it themselves. And the only reason the insurance industry is, um, we'll say, simping so hard is because it is because they know how punitive the government will be against them if they don't get support from the insurance industry. And everybody hates insurance, but it doesn't help when the insurance industry is made even worse by the government by garbage like this.
I mean, it's just crazy. 0.5% of your premium potential increase. Just bad news, folks. Bad, bad news. The government's doing everything possible to make our lives more expensive. And then, of course, in the Finance Committee, here's a good one. Definitely should look at ring some alarm bells when you see decarbonization measures. So House Bill 1269, building decarbonization measures here. So of course, they want to update all these energy codes and have all these new energy standards. Let's just take a look at the fiscal note here to get a little bit more of a breakdown here. The only problem, this is a revised fiscal note. So you always got to check on fiscal notes. They don't update as fast as the other stuff you might see on there. So check this out here. A lot of state revenue, a lot of state expenditures. Let's see what they're going to do with it. The bill creates the Building Decarbonization Enterprise. So there's another alarm bell. Enterprise means a government business in the Colorado Energy Office to provide technical assistance, financing, and other programmatic support for building decarbonization measures such as energy audits, consulting services, and energy use tracking software. Covered building owners must pay a $400 fee to the enterprise beginning of fiscal year 25-26. The fee is set in the bill and will increase with inflation. So now everybody who owns a business or owns a building in Colorado that meets these requirements is going to pay an extra $400. I'm guessing a year. It didn't specify there. We'll see, probably a year. And then basically you're giving them money so that they can try and control you better. So bad stuff here, folks. Absolutely terrible. But yeah, there you go. The fee is set at $400 and then it increases with inflation. There's 8,300 buildings covered by the fee. And then there's a compliance aspect that's phased in over 3 years. So they're just going to bring in all this money and then, of course, going to force that on these businesses to adhere to this decarbonization scheme that won't do anything, folks. It's not going to do anything to improve our environment. It's not going to do anything at all, but they're going to create energy audits, consulting services, and energy use tracking software to go after these building owners even worse. So bad news, folks. Yeah, what do you think, Michael?
You know, with as late as it is, it's really difficult to answer a lot of the questions in the chat. There's been some very fantastic questions in the chat today, but this bill reminds me of something one of the individuals said in the chat, which was about a different bill, which was why isn't the state government trying to encourage a lot more people to work from home and remote work? I think that would be a better option in this individual case because as of right now, a bill like this, all this is really going to do is try to push more garbage regulations that are not going to be good for the economy, not going to be good for businesses, and it's not going to be good for commercial real estate either at the end of the day because they're going to use this as a framework to push even more and more harsh policies on a lot of business owners, especially in the commercial real estate market. And right now, the commercial real estate market is not doing very well in Colorado. So I think this is going to be more and more. This is just going to be another way that uh, this is going to be another thing that the Colorado legislature is going to do to the economy that's going to have a lot of negative consequences that they don't even understand. And if they do, um, they're too yeah, I think there's going to be a lot of negative consequences that a lot of people don't even fully comprehend at this moment.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, 100%. It's a war on business, or a war on business building owners. I mean, it's only going to create more problems. So, like you said, it is getting late, so we'll fly through these last ones here. So, in the Judiciary Committee on Wednesday, April 30th, and the Old Supreme Court at 1:30. This, of course, is probably going to get the most media exposure, the most interest. And there's rallies outside the Capitol on Wednesday because of this bill. It is huge. House Bill 1312, the legal protections for transgender individuals. So, of course, there's tons and tons of concerns for this one. Of course, folks, absolutely horrific bill. Really bad stuff here. But of course, they want the child custody decisions to be in the best interests of the child, of course. So the court shall consider dead naming, misgendering, or threatening to publish material related to an individual's gender affirming healthcare services as types of coercive control. Meaning, folks, of course, I'm sure you've heard this by now, but basically, you can lose custody of your kid if you don't go along with this dangerous gender ideology. So, absolutely horrendous. We won't spend a ton of time on this. There's a lot out there. It'll be very interesting to see what amendments are done to this bill. So, guys, when you look at the bill summaries here, you can see what's crossed out is what they take out. And then what they add as italics is added in amendment process here. So, they took out the public forums part. I heard that was going to be too expensive. They changed a little bit about the dress code thing. They wanted to make non-gendered dress code. I mean, it's crazy. It's like this Soviet style. It's like Marx. It's like Mao in China. Like everybody, there's no like gender specific clothing. People are forced to wear the same thing. It's absolutely crazy. What's interesting here is they do define dead naming and misgendering as discriminatory acts in the Colorado Anti-Discrimination Act and prohibit these discriminatory practices or acts in places of public accommodation. Although the bill does not prevent a public entity from using an individual's legal name when required to do so by law to ensure that the identity of the individual can be verified or that other information pertaining to the individual that is needed for legal or other legitimate purposes can be obtained. So bad stuff there, folks. Absolutely horrible. Obviously, a lot of people are going to be showing up for this one. Really hope we get a massive turnout against this bill. People should be reaching out to their legislators and in the Senate and really trying to stop this. Yeah. Any thoughts on this one, Michael?
I'm this is one of those bills that really shows that there is a point where too much is too much, and we're seeing some people actively reach out and take notice. Today, I went to church, and the chair of the Jeffco GOP, Jeffco LP, went to church with me, and we had a couple come up to us and my wife, and we had a fantastic conversation about this bill and how to testify, as well as getting other people active and involved in understanding what is going on. So this is a fantastic opportunity for people to really understand what is going on, and people are taking notice of what's going on in the Colorado legislature, and we need to be proactive, get more people involved, and let these individuals know. Um, and let people know what they can do, and they need to really see what other people can do, because I'm hearing good news, and that's if we get enough people to show up, get involved, that they could possibly kill this bill internally even. So it would be phenomenal if we could get a huge turnout and really speak up for your rights. Obviously, you don't want to go overboard, but really speak out, be passionate, be passionate, and really show these people that they've crossed the line, and Colorado's not going to take it anymore. That being said, I do want to warn people with this. There are some groups of nefarious actors. There's some bad faith actors within some of the people that have been speaking out. I'm loving the genuine good faith the good faith response, but there are some people to watch out for and just be very, very aware with some of the groups that are speaking out against this. So just a fair bit of warning with this. We've seen this recently within Colorado. So watch out, but show up to the Capitol on this one. There's a lot of people that are very angry, and let's hope the this is rock bottom, and this is the moment. This becomes the turning point for Colorado.
Yeah, let's definitely hope so. That's for sure. 100%. People are waking up, how terrible this legislation is. But yeah, folks. One other committee hearing I just wanted to talk about, kind of skipped over it on accident here, is on Tuesday in the Senate State Veterans and Military Affairs Committee. Just want to bring this up because there's been a lot of talk about vacancy appointments, even in the chat tonight. So this is the bill that's going to make it through. There was a lot of bills this year about vacancy appointments, and this is the only one that's really going to make it. House Bill 1315 and House Bill 1319, dealing with the General Assembly and county commissioners, basically is the same thing. Just wanted to bring this up to people because there has been recognition from both sides of the aisle that vacancy committees have been a problem, that it's not how government should operate. So you can definitely check it out. There's a lot to this bill. Don't want to necessarily read it all because we are light on time here, but just very briefly in the fiscal note, looking at that summary here, it requires that a vacancy committee to fill a vacancy in the General Assembly include county commissioners. It also specifies that a member of the vacancy committee must be appointed for at least 90 days to participate in the vacancy committee process. If a vacancy in the General Assembly occurs for a member affiliated with a major political party after July 31st of an even-numbered year and before July 31st of an odd-numbered year, a vacancy committee selects a candidate to serve until the next odd year November election. A vacancy election, a new type of election created by this bill, is then held as part of the district's odd year November coordinated election. Only unaffiliated voters and voters affiliated with the vacating member's political party may vote in the vacancy election. Candidates for the vacancy election are required to submit a nominating statement and sign petition to the Secretary of the State. The winner of the vacancy election serves until the next November general election. So interesting stuff there, folks. Just wanted to bring that up because there is some changes coming. This one has, let's look at the history real quick, has made it pretty far, has made it all the way to the House, and is now in its first Senate committee hearing. We won't go into the other one because the county commissioner is basically the same thing in terms of the timeline and all of that, but made it through the House, onto the Senate. So interesting stuff there. Any thoughts on the vacancy committees there, Michael?
I was disappointed to see these two bills of all the different bills to be the ones to make it through, but it's also the ones that I expected to make it through. I do think that these bills are better than nothing. I know that you had some pretty I believe your most popular video ever was about Chris Hansen resigning immediately uh, after he was reelected in 2024. So we do need to do something. I think this is better than nothing. We need represent in there, I believe, what, 30, correct me if I'm wrong, I believe it's around 30 different legislators that were appointed and not elected that are currently sitting in the Colorado legislature. So we have a serious problem of unelected officials that were at least initially introduced to the General Assembly via vacancy committee and not by the people. So I think we have to do something. This is better than nothing, but it's not what I was hoping for, but it is what I expected.
Right. Yeah, it's better than nothing. I do think it's a step in the right direction. Is it going to solve all the problems? Probably not. But hey, like you said, it's probably some compromise. I mean, that's the nature of politics, right?
Yep,
But folks, let's talk about some of the important bills we've been tracking. You ready for a lightning round here, Michael? Since we're getting so late.
absolutely. Let's do it.
Awesome. So these are the bills, folks, that we've been keeping an eye on all year, all these 17 weeks. We're on week 17. We haven't missed a beat this year in terms of the bills. So I'll fly through them. And I almost need to apologize. So I copied the slides over from last week, but it had all the Easter stuff because it was Easter, right? So then like all these graphics came with it, and then I can't delete them now. So I was like, well, I'm not going to go back and do that. So it's kind of funny, but you'll see some of the Easter graphics still there. But hey, it's still kind of springtime. So there you go. But I'll get started here. Senate Bill 20, a tenant and landlord law enforcement. This is getting the Attorney General to go after landlords in another attempt to get our property rights. Being heard on the Senate floor tomorrow, Monday, April 28th. The controversial bill from Rep. Hartsook 1006. allowing school district property to be used for affordable housing for the teachers' unions is going to be heard on the House floor tomorrow as well. So we'll see how that goes. It went back to the House after passing out because there was some amendments in the Senate. So people can keep an eye on that. Go for it, Michael.
House Bill 1127, register and drive surplus military vehicles, passed on to it's passed two committees. Now it's on to appropriation. Let's hope that one gets through. House Bill 1287, House Committee on Health and Human Services, and it was passed and now referred amended to appropriations. Let's hope
Yep,
this one gets killed.
definitely. Senate Bill 79, that's the Bitcoin ATM bill being heard on the Senate floor on Monday. Modify statewide ballot measure processes. This is the anti-democratic measure that's going to make it harder for citizens to get initiatives on the ballot. House Bill 1327, unfortunately, has made it out of the Senate committee and is now being heard on the Senate floor. And unfortunately, that one looks like it's going to make it all the way through, which is not entirely surprising, but also extremely disappointing.
Senate Bill 131, reducing the cost of housing. This was introduced to the Senate into the State Veterans and Military Affairs Committee, and with this being as late as it is in the session, I don't think this one's gonna make it through. House Bill 1239, which is the update to COTA, passed the House, introduced to the Senate, and it's signed to the judiciary, and it is going to be heard on the floor tomorrow.
Yeah, this should be third reading on the House floor tomorrow. So, yeah, unfortunate there. But hopefully they'll stop in the Senate. 1314, this is where they're going to give new police powers to Department of Revenue employees. They're going to allow these people to go after gun shops, go after FFLs. Basically, all the people who say do not comply to Senate Bill 3, well, this is their way around it by having state level law enforcement from the Department of Revenue investigating gun shops. Horrible, horrible bill, 1314, being heard on the Senate floor on Monday. So, really bad news there, folks. 1209, that's the marijuana regulation streamline. A lot in that bill. Apparently, the part about going from 1 ounce to 2 ounces, the amount you can buy, somebody said it's still in the bill. I thought it got struck out, so I'll have to investigate further, but that's being heard on the House floor tomorrow as well.
Senate Bill 5, uh, this is the bill to take us from a right to work state to a non-right to work state, killing 80 years of the peace deal with the Labor Act. That is going to be heard on the House tomorrow, as well as Senate Bill 72, regulation of kratom, that is going to be heard on the House as well. Let's hope this one stalls out in the House if this one does pass in the Senate.
Oh gosh, I was so mad about this because that we talked about this to Senator Byron Pelton when he was on the show previously, and it's such a terrible bill, folks. They're trying to go after kratom, they're trying to go after natural medicine, they're trying to go after naturopathic type of stuff, and unfortunately, this did make it out of committee. I hope that it doesn't make it through. I hope it either dies here in the House. People, if you care about kratom or bodily autonomy, really lobby against Senate Bill 72 there. This is the county commissioner vacancies one. We just talked about that being heard Tuesday, and then 1312 being heard Wednesday. Just heard about those. So,
House Joint Resolution 1023. This is the Tabor lawsuit where the state is trying to sue the state of Colorado. The General Assembly wants to sue the state of Colorado over the constitutionality of Tabor, which is a citizen initiative amendment that was passed and a part of the state constitution now. So very, very odd. Let's hope this one gets killed, as well as House Bill 1291, Transportation Network Company Consumer Protection. This is the crazy Wilford bill that is going to force Uber to leave, just like Magpul left Colorado with when we passed all of our crazy legislation in 2013. This will pull Uber from Colorado. So let's hope this one dies as well.
yep, definitely. 1303, we talked about that. That's increasing people's car insurance being heard this Tuesday. The title, register, and drive the K vehicles or key vehicles, however you say it. House Bill 1281. That was kind of stalled out. I hope it makes it through. Would really like to see this one pass. It's on the Appropriations Committee now, so it's got to get through this week if there's a chance. But yeah, I mean, it's made it through the Senate. So if it gets through Appropriations, gets on the floor, it could still become law. So that'd be a good one.
Senate Bill 173, Revenue Classification Taxpayer Bill of Rights. So if they can't kill Tabor, they're going to try to absolutely destroy it. That will be heard in the House tomorrow morning. It's already passed the Senate. House Bill 25, 13, 15. We talked about this one a little bit ago, and it's going to be heard Tuesday in the State Veteran and Military Affairs Committee.
The civil rights immigration status being heard on Monday. Talked about that. I added this one. It's not one that's been kept on my radar too much, but wanted to bring it up. Senate Bill 70, the online marketplace and third-party sellers, specifically because it went along with Senate Bill 86 we talked so much about tonight, because basically it turns these online marketplace websites into surveillance apparatuses where they have to keep an eye on what people are selling, and if they think it was stolen, they report it to the state. So it's just the outsourcing of law enforcement to digital platforms, not a good thing. So I'm really hoping Senate Bill 70 does die. Obviously, I hate thieves. I hate the fact that people are stealing things and then selling it online, bad stuff. But it's going too far to say that these online marketplaces and websites need to be investigating all the people using their platform. I don't like that. So moving on to the bills that passed. So folks, that we're in the last 2 weeks of the session here. So a lot of these bills have passed. Let's fly through these here. And I didn't update these, so some of them the governor might have signed. But House Bill 1175, a good one for allowing people to having the energy companies have to get people to opt in to use smart meters. 183, the governor did sign that one to provide taxpayer funded abortions here in Colorado. Bad news there. Go for it, Michael.
House Bill 1247, county lodging tax expansion. We saw another version of this one last year where they were going to charge a 33% uh, uh, property tax fee to people that have a lot of Airbnbs, etc. That one failed, but this one passed. This was a expansion of the county lodging tax, as well as House Bill 1113. This is going to be the step. This is one more step for on a statewide level to for the government to ban turf in people's lawns, particularly new residents. So very concerned that that one passed because this one it's just one step closer to banning all turf altogether in Colorado. And if you don't think if that sounds wild to you, that's exactly what they're trying to do in Colorado.
Well, and it's such a problem reaction solution situation too, where it's like if they force high density housing into communities that don't want it, don't have the water for it, and all of a sudden they're like, well, we don't have the water, so nobody can have lawns, and it's like they keep creating the problems, and then they have to keep doing things to make the problems, and they just keep making more problems. So it's absolutely ridiculous.
And it's really ironic because green space is one of the things that helps reduce quote unquote climate change or global warming, and that's exactly what they're preventing with bills like this.
Definitely. And then the gun show requirements, the governor did sign that. Really bad bill, making it very difficult to have gun shows in Colorado. House Bill 1203, the governor did sign that as well. They have to brand sell cultivated meat as such. Uh, so there you go.
House Bill 1093, limitations on local anti-growth use policies. We're a home rule state. This is one step closer to taking away home rule from particularly local communities. It has passed, and it's a part of the whole 15-minute city agenda that we were talking about earlier, particularly when it comes to vulnerable user protections, mode shift, etc. Senate Bill 86. This is a bill we talked about extensively today. I saw earlier that Rep Gonzalez said that the vote for in the House will be tomorrow. So make sure to once you get off this call, uh, once we get off this email your representatives immediately. Let them know to not override the veto.
100% there. Prohibit new liquor licensed drugstores. The governor did sign that supposedly with hesitation, but basically banning new liquor licenses for pharmacies or drugstore licenses in Colorado. Bad news there, folks. Senate Bill 77, the governor did veto that one and is going to be heard this Friday in the state Senate. Hopefully it dies out and hopefully the clock runs out on that one, but unfortunately, there's a chance that could get passed again.
And that's another one to go ahead and while you're emailing representatives, Senate Bill 77, go ahead and add that to the no on the veto override list. Essentially, I know it's ironic we call it the Kyle Clark law, but Kyle Clark came out against this even. So tell your Democratic representatives to vote no on the veto override for this one as well. House Bill 1010 prohibiting price gouging and sales of necessities. Another wildly socialist economic policy that passed our by a bunch of crazies like Zoe K, they, them, Kyle Brown, and Put You to Sleep Weissman, as well as House Bill 1040. This is actually the good one, probably the best bill that passed the legislature this year, adding nuclear energy as a clean energy resource.
Definitely good bill. The worst gun bill in Colorado history, Senate Bill 3, and then the worst ammunition restriction we've seen in recent years, also is both signed by the governor. Really bad news there, folks.
House Bill 25-10005. I know we had Baisley on. Baisley is the best senator that we have in Colorado, but this is probably his biggest blunder was, in my opinion, is 1005 tax incentive for film festival. This was the bill to move the Sunset Film Festival to Boulder and give them $34 million in tax breaks by doing so. House Bill 1321, support against adverse federal action. This was passed and now it is on to the governor. So we are going to sue the state.
Yep, that's that $4 million slush fund for Jared Polis to use to sue the Trump administration.
Yep.
Well, it's dead bills, folks. Pay some respects here to all the ones that died this year.
F in the
Uh,
chats, people.
We'll just fly through this. House Bill 1243. This would have prevented police officers from asking if they knew why you pulled them over. Good bill. Sad to see that one fail. 1145 would have helped stop Colorado from becoming this sanctuary state for child trafficking for the purposes of abortion and transgenderism.
House Bill 1237, soft closing of alcohol beverage establishments, which would have extended the time that beverage establishments could have stayed open. That was killed, as well as Senate Bill 156, reducing the costs of state regulation. A good bill that was killed by Rep. Kelty. That was not killed by Rep. Kelty, but it was sponsored by Reps Kelty and Rich.
1255, healthcare provider right to exercise conscience. Good bill, killed. 1251, the parental consent of treatment of a minor. Great bill for parental rights. Unfortunately, killed as well.
House Bill 1190, expanding Colorado Cottage Foods Act. This was also known as the Tamale Act. It was killed, as well as House Bill 1232, liability when means of self-defense prohibited. Another fantastic bill by the great Stephanie Luck that was killed.
Yep, two good bills dead. County mail and ballot signature verification requirements, of course, killed. They don't like the idea of strengthening our elections there. The gift card or retail property crime penalties also dead.
Senate Bill 56, reduce premium cigar excise tax. A good bill by good old Stompin' Tom Sullivan, who never misses the opportunity to stomp on his own son's grave to take your rights away. That was killed. And then House Bill 1055, repeal firearm dealer requirements of state permit. That was a good bill by Rep. Brooks. That was killed to repeal last year's garbage state permit law against FFLs.
The egg lane bill to get rid of the ridiculous cage-free egg law we have in Colorado that has driven up prices, reduced the supply, of course, killed. Repeal paper bag carry-out fee, that little stupid 10 cents to get a paper bag in Colorado, that would have repealed that, of course, killed.
House Bill 1134, insect production of human consumption by Rep. Scott Bottoms. That was killed. That would have banned insect products being used as food supply sources. And then House Bill 1143, open source software and voting systems, which would have opened up voting system transparency in Colorado. That was by Rep Brooks. That was killed as well.
Repeal retail delivery fees. Great bill from Representative Woog was killed. Enforcement of federal immigration law. This is kind of the signature immigration law in the legislature this year. Of course, killed.
House Bill 1106 removed precipitation collection limitations, a good bill by Rep. Sukla. That was killed, as well as Senate Bill 57, non-citizen voter registration cancellation, a bill that we apparently don't need because we don't register non-citizens, but at the same time, they killed it for whatever reason because apparently we don't need it, but at the same time, if there but at the same time we need to kill it. None of it made sense, but it is now dead.
Government transparency laws, great bill I testified in favor of. 1242, of course, killed. They don't want to increase government transparency. Thankfully, the anti-cannabis law, Senate Bill 76, was killed. So happy about that.
Senate Bill 139, grocery and utility bill reduction measures, a phenomenal bill by Rep. Baisley. We call this the Afuera bill because of how many fees and this would have knocked out for Coloradans, making Colorado a cheaper and more cost-effective place to live, as well as another phenomenal bill by Reps Baisley in English, protection against child rape, which would have ensured that child rapists actually serve jail time. Apparently, we don't need child rapists to serve jail time, and I believe they said it's 70 child rapists a year go free and don't ever serve actual jail time. So absolutely wild that the Democrats killed this bill.
Crazy. A criminal asset forfeiture would have eliminated civil asset forfeiture and replaced it with a criminal penalty there. House Bill 1067 from the great Ken DeGraff. And then House Bill 1100, that was Representative Luck's vacancy election bill that, of course, they killed as well. A few more here, folks.
House Bill 1262 regulate private security officers and agencies. This was thankfully killed. This was another gun grab in disguise. That's dead, as well as Senate Bill 201 killed during the second reading, laid over to after the session is over. Require age checks for online sexual materials.
There we go, folks. That's it. That's all of them we got for the week. So appreciate everybody jumping in, keeping an eye. It was a very interesting time. And yeah, just appreciate it. Keep fighting the good fight, folks. We got just 8 days left or so. We'll see how it goes. We'll keep you updated. Follow the Libertarian Party of Colorado, LPCO, on social media. Follow Free State Colorado on social media as well. We'll keep the information flowing, get the information out there. But really appreciate everybody and everybody's efforts. Really appreciate Senator Baisley for joining us. It was great to hear his insight. Really hope the legislators in the House heed his words there. What are your final thoughts there, Michael?
Stay in the fight, stay extremely vigilant, and I appreciate everybody showing up. It's 10 o'clock. We still have 36 people on, and so grateful for everybody coming week in and week out. We can win. It might not be right away. We might lose the battle, but we're gonna win the war. It's not if, but when.
Heck yeah, buddy. Awesome. Appreciate it, guys. Take care.